Welcome to the WVU Coliseum in Morgantown, West Virginia for day one of our two-day 2024 National Rifle Championships. I'm Nick Farrell alongside Verena Zeisberger, the former All-American rifle shooter for West Virginia University. We're excited to get this underway. Two-day national championship beginning today with a pair of small bore qualifier sessions all leading up to our national individual final this afternoon at about 3 p.m. Verena, former shooter, former All-American at West Virginia. Did you get nervous before meets like this?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I feel like everybody does, and not everybody talks about it probably. But yeah, we absolutely do. Most people, I feel like they're definitely nervous in the beginning, like during sighters. That's when, the nerves get a little bit high, but then afterwards I feel like it calms down. And then again, like, due to the nature of the sport, like the last few shots, depending on how you're doing, people might be a little nervous. But absolutely, like any other athlete, we get nervous for sure.
Our first small bore relay has begun. Sighters began at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We just began a moment ago. 24 competitors from our 8 qualifying teams competing in this first small bore relay. Number 1, West Virginia, number 2, TCU, number 3, Air Force, and number 4, Kentucky, along with 5-seed Alaska, 6-seed Ole Miss, 7-seed Navy, and 8-seed Nebraska. And here's a look at live targets. We'll be taking a peek at these throughout both of these relay rounds. 3 shooters from Navy and 3 from Alaska Fairbanks on the top line, followed by 3 from Air Force and 3 from host West Virginia. On the second line, TCU, a team with some terrific young ladies that's going to compete for the team national title, and Kentucky on the third line, and then our final competitors from Ole Miss and Nebraska. And there's a look at the Horned Frogs, the number 2 seed in today's tournament. Katie Zahn, Stephanie Grunso, and Stephanie Allen shooting here in small bore relay 1.
Yeah, Stephanie Grunzo, actually a really good shooter. She's number 2, number 3 in air rifle. She's one of the top shooters we have this year, so got to be on the lookout for her.
Second best small bore average in the country, in fact, trailing only West Virginia's Mary Tucker. If you're a Mountaineer fan that's looking to see the former Olympic silver medalist compete for the old gold and blue today, make sure you stick around. Tucker will shoot during our second relay, which is scheduled to begin around noon Eastern time.
So for anybody who doesn't really know anything about this, we'll have 3 shooters in the first relay from each team, and then we'll have 2 shooters in the next relay, and that will be our 5 shooters from each team, and 1 score will be dropped. So.
A good point, Verena. So 4 scores count in small bore, 4 in air rifle.
Yep.
And the combined 8 scores is how we get to our team scores to crown a team national champion?
Yes, if you count like small bore and air rifle, that's exactly it. So we have 4 shooters that will count, 5 are competing, 4 will count. The lowest scores will be dropped, and each athlete competes in both small bore and air gun. So if you count that together, we'll have 8 scores that will make up the score to win or not to win.
So the relay, not just important to qualify for today's small bore individual final, but
yes,
it also all counts toward the big team prize, which will be awarded tomorrow. One that West Virginia, the number 1 seed, certainly hopes to win here at the Coliseum, the program with the most national championships. You're taking a look now at West Virginia's 3 shooters here in this small bore relay. On the right side, that's Molly McGinn. Griffin Lake to her left, and then on the left of Lake is Gavin Barnick, the junior from Wisconsin. McGinn, a terrific small bore shooter. We'll have to keep an eye on her. She's 5th best in the country this season in small bore average and 4th in aggregate scoring.
Yeah, absolutely. She's done really well for herself. Gavin Barnick actually shot a perfect 600 at the last at the conference championship. So the last competition before NCAA's. Which is really You don't see that very often.
No, right. I believe he's only the 8th Mountaineer in program history.
Absolutely.
And think about how much history and tradition the West Virginia rifle team has. 19 national championships, more than any other school in the country. Looking to reclaim that team national title this week here at the Coliseum. Looking now at Marley Duncan, one of 3 Navy midshipman shooters. Navy qualifying as the 7 seed in this national tournament. Went from number 12 in the country to top 8 in a matter of weeks to make it here to the big show today and tomorrow in the national championships. Led by head coach Mike Ante, who's in his 7th year. A lot of ties to the West Virginia rifle program, including Ante, who's a WVU Sports Hall of Famer, competed for the Mountaineers in the mid-'80s.
Yeah, so Will Ante actually was still a shooter on the team when I was in my freshman year, so 2019. He's a very young coach, but he's done really well for himself. I mean, they won the championships last year, so that's really unheard of to, you know, start coaching a team and then just go ahead and winning that championship, you know.
Let's take another look at scores here as we continue to go through the first leg of our small bore relay. A reminder, 3 20-shot series in small bore.
Absolutely, yes.
Start kneeling, then go to prone after sighters, and then another break for sighters to standing. Right now in the first phase, the kneeling phase.
Absolutely, and so what we see here are the sighters that we all take together in kneeling 15 minutes before we start competition. So we will all start the competition together, but from there then everybody will be on their own. So they will shoot their 20 shots kneeling, then go into their sighters for prone, and then they can go ahead and just flip the match button whenever they want to. So we start the competition together, but people finish individually at their own pace.
Yeah, so it's a great point that you may have somebody finish well before the final competitor, but that doesn't mean scores are locked in for that series until everybody's done.
Yes, so it's not done until it's done, but just speaking internationally, or if you shoot outdoors, it can be a little bit of an advantage to be a little bit of one of the faster shooters. So that's really interesting. Also mentally, it's less of a strain if you don't have to fight till the last second. And also, if you shoot with wind, a lot of the times, you know, being a faster shooter is an advantage for sure.
So when we posted up the scores a moment ago, you noticed that Sara Karasova from Alaska Fairbanks was setting the pace. She'd already taken 13 shots, 179 is her score. That's the highest score among all competitors so far. But by my count, she's also taken the most shots.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the competitors from the Naval Academy, much slower pace.
Yeah, Griffin actually has a really tight group as well. So a lot of the times, like especially when we're in sighters, since they're sighting in, and they might click their sights to, you know, move from the right to the left. A good indicator for like even the skill of a shooter is like how tight their group is. That's what we're looking for a lot of the times, that, you know, you shoot and you shoot consistently in one spot rather than kind of all over the place. So if you look at Griffin's, you know, target, that's a pretty good group right there.
Here's a look at our competitors from Air Force. The number 3 seed placed second in the Patriot Rifle Conference Championships last month. The shooters in Relay 1 are Victoria Leppert, Morgan Kreb, and Scott Rocket, who won the individual air rifle title back in 2022, becoming the first Falcon to accomplish that feat. Leppert there at the bottom of your screen, Kreb just above her.
Absolutely, and when Scott actually won those that championship, he was only a freshman, so all the more impressive.
So impressed by what so many of these student athletes have accomplished, many of them well accomplished and well decorated on the international scene as well. Going to see quite a few who have won World Cup medals. We mentioned Mary Tucker, who is an Olympic medalist. Not too uncommon for these men and women to have tremendous accolades outside of what they accomplish with their schools.
Absolutely, for sure. And I mean, even Alaska, like, they have a lot of international shooters, so most of them will compete for their own national team back home. So there's a lot of people here with international experience and just, yeah, a lot under their belt for sure.
Had a look there a moment ago at the Kentucky Wildcats. Their shooters in this first relay are Sophia Ciccarello, Braden Pizer, and Jaden Thompson. Ciccarello there on your left and Pizer on your right. Ciccarello, a native of Ravenna, Italy, from the Emilia-Romagna province, one of Italy's iconic culinary regions. Got to chat with her a little bit yesterday. Came to the United States just for college. Another one who's quite decorated on the international scene, former GARC Rookie of the Year. Last year, she's in her sophomore campaign with the Wildcats this year. Top small bore shooter for Kentucky, too, so could be one of those competitors that's really there to contend for one of the 8 spots in this afternoon's small bore individual final.
Yeah, she has huge potential. She actually also has some ties to one of her WU alumni, so Nico Campriani, which is arguably the most successful shooter of all time. He has multiple Olympic medals. She knows him obviously because he's Italian as well. So yeah, there's a lot of ties to the Mountaineers.
Stephanie Grunso on your right. Speaking of European competitors, a native of Denmark. She's got TCU's top small bore average, as we mentioned earlier, second in the nation in small bore average, 591.3. Won a bronze medal at the World Cup in 2023 earlier this year, competing for Denmark. And a 12-time first-team All-American. All 4 previous years, Grunso was first-team All-America in small bore, air rifle, and aggregate. Okay, another look at the scoring. We were just talking about Grunso, 156. She's into her second 10-shot series now.
Yeah, actually, Sophia Ciccarello, she actually hasn't shot a single 9 so far, so she seems to be doing pretty well.
Tremendous. 15 shots, all 10s. And remember, it's worth noting here as we're looking at scores, integer scoring is in play for the individual small bore relay, which means if you're looking at Ciccarello, right, it's all 10s, whether it was a 10.1, a 10.5, still counts the same way. So we get nice even numbers for the small bore relay, but when we get to the final, we do switch over to decimal scoring, and things get a little bit tighter that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people who aren't shooters or familiar with the sport, the relays are a little bit easier to track because it's really just either it's a 10 or a 9 or an 8. So no decimal scoring there, but once we do switch to the finals, we do count decimals, and that's where the scores get a little bit more tricky to follow, I will say. But yeah, absolutely. Right now it's just about, do you shoot a 9 or a 10, and that's it.
So Ciccarello, 17 shots, all 10 so far. Looks like Sara Karasova from Alaska Fairbanks has concluded her first 20 shots at 199. That would put her at 19 10s and 1 9. Pretty solid start for Karasova. Alaska Fairbanks, the reigning national champion. The team with the second most team national titles all time, trailing only WVU. Mountaineers have 19 to lead the country, and the Nanooks have 11, including last year's, looking to go back-to-back for the first time since winning 3 in a row in 2006, 2007, and 2008.
We just see Martina Gratz right here. She's actually a little sister of one of the W Mountaineers that shot for the team here. She just came into the shooting world a few years after her sister, but actually decided to go to Ole Miss instead of WU, and she's done pretty well for herself, I would say.
Gratz here on the bottom of your screen wearing number 49. We're also shooting for number 6 seed Ole Miss, Leah Horvath and Christy Durting in small bore relay number 1. Aussie, by the way, also posting a 199 through this first relay.
We're going to see some very interesting kneeling scores here. They're shooting really well here.
Yeah. So tell me, for you, Verena, was there one? Was it kneeling, prone, standing that you found to be your specialty? Does every individual kind of have a specialty where they know, hey, if I can shoot really well kneeling, I'm going to be off and running here?
Yeah, so I mean, absolutely. I think that's a really good question because everybody has their specialty and everybody has their favorite position. I think what kind of people get hung up on a lot of the times is that they're like, well, I'm a really good kneeling shooter, and you know my prone is decent, but then their standing just doesn't go as well, and they get really frustrated to not be able to do well at all three of those. But I will say that everybody has their strengths, and they try to use that to their advantage. But the goal, obviously, is to be a fairly balanced shooter. And nowadays, like, people are just insanely good at what they're doing, so you have to be a really good shooter at all three.
So it looks like all three of the Horned Frogs from TCU have completed their first 20 shots in the kneeling position and are getting ready to sight their prone shots. Katie Zahn, top among them with a 199 to match Alaska Fairbanks' Karasova. All three of the midshipmen have also completed their first 20 shots. Deontay Hayes, a 193. Stephanie Milvain, 195, and Marley Duncan, 194. And for West Virginia, Gavin Barnick also went through his 20 shots at a rapid pace to shoot a 196. We mentioned Nebraska's Cecilia Aussie. She shot a 199 through the first 20 to put her right on pace with Karasova and Zahn through 20 shots. And Kentucky's Braden Pizer. Going to have to keep an eye on him, too. He has really been shooting well as of late. Pizer posting a 196 through his first 20 shots. A true freshman from Texas is one of the only three shooters in this field of competitors that shot a 597 in small bore this year, and he did that at the conference championships, the GARC Conference Championships last month. So really some of his best shooting has come over the last several weeks between the conference championships and the NCAA qualifiers. Certainly hoping to have that continue today here in the small bore relay at the national championships. By the way, if you're wondering, finished third with that 597 and then went into the final, finished third in the GARC small bore championships, but then won the air rifle final after posting a 597 in air rifle to reach the final. So definitely this young man, a true freshman.
Yep. It
has what it takes to really compete and give Kentucky as a team a chance if he can really set the standard for the Wildcats today.
Molly McGinn seems to be recovering a little bit. Her first series wasn't quite what she was hoping for, but she's on track now. Has not shot a 9 so far in her second series, so she's recovering for sure.
Here's another look at Karasova from Alaska Fairbanks, the junior, native of the Czech Republic, and a former national team champion in the Czech Republic. Already into her prone competitive shots here, and 6 shots, 6 tens from the prone position from Karasova.
Yeah, she's a fast shooter. She's already, I mean, you see there's still some people in kneeling, so she's a fast one. But yeah, like prone is almost, it's a difficult one because you're expected to shoot only 10s, but it's not quite that easy. Like you can definitely still shoot a 9. It's not that easy. But like I said, people are getting so good that you're almost not allowed to shoot a 9 if you want to get in the final.
And Verena, the margin for error is just so thin, right? If we're talking about the 10 on the target, it's 10.4 millimeters. That's half the size of a nickel, a 5-cent piece, right? So if you've got a nickel in your pocket, take that out, cut it in half, and that's the size of the 10 that they're trying to hit time after time after time.
Yes, absolutely. So definitely the margin for error is tiny in our sport, absolutely. We see some scores again.
Let's reset you here. So Ciccarello, we had mentioned her previously, 199. She's still in her sighters for prone. A reminder that 20 kneeling shots, 20 prone shots, followed by 20 standing shots. That's our 60-shot relay. We'll do it again in the second relay session with 2 more competitors from each school, as well as 4 individual qualifiers. All 3 competitors from Navy also continuing their sighting. Checking in on West Virginia, Gavin Barnick has shot 7 10s from the prone position so far, bringing his total score, make that 8, as he just nailed another 10. He's fired at 276 so far.
And here we see 2 West Virginia shooters, Molly McGinn and Griffin Lake, getting through their last few shots and kneeling. Molly McGinn actually just finished with a 195. She actually finished really nicely. She shot 100 on her last series, so she finished with 10 straight 10s.
Again, placed 4th at the GARC Championships in Smallbore.
She actually placed 4th in both disciplines, funnily enough. So.
That's right, and then ended up 5th in aggregate score with an 1187 for the 2-day championship at the GARCs. But then she followed that up with an 1192 at the NCAA qualifiers.
Which is an insane score. That needs to be said. It is an absolutely insane score. Scores are just getting higher and higher here.
Former air rifle national champion Scott Rocket for Air Force on your screen now. Come on, Verena, Scott Rocket. Could you have a better name? Not just for rifle.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was insane. Like when he, as a freshman, won his first NCAA individual title, and just such a great name to be yelling through an arena. It's just, it was great.
Rocket still in his kneeling series. He's at 165, just to tie a bow on the former air rifle champion. 3 kneeling shots to go for him.
Yeah, he's definitely on the slower side. We're a little bit over 20 minutes here for competition. So usually I would say like needing more than a minute per shot is definitely on the slower side. So I don't know what his normal rhythm is, if he's always a little slower and kneeling, but definitely needs to be, speeding it up a little bit, unless he's a really fast standing shooter maybe.
These athletes get roughly 90 minutes to complete all 60 of their shots in the 3x20 small bore relay.
And again, for anybody who's not into shooting, if you look at the scores and you see a little triangle, this little gray triangle at the right, at the top of the target, that indicates that that shooter is in sighters at the moment. So for example, if they're sighting in for prone, exactly. So that gray triangle tells you that they're sighting in for whatever position that they're in right now. So for now, that's most likely going to be prone.
So again, we'll use Karasova as the example. She's sighting in for standing. She has rapidly gone through 40 shots to post a 399 to set the pace in this competition. 20 for 20 from the kneeling position. Just absolutely terrific stuff from the native of the Czech Republic.
And at what pace, like she is so fast. I, as a shooter, cannot imagine how she does that, and just so flawless. I mean, she dropped 1 point so far. That's just really high quality shooting right there, and as really fast too.
Spoke with Karasova last night, the junior from Alaska Fairbanks, majoring in sports and recreation, former first-team All-American. Smallbore does appear to be her specialty. I mean, she's quite good in both, don't get me wrong. Top 15 in smallbore and top 20 nationally in air rifle average this year. Having an absolutely terrific start to this national championship for the defending national title holders, the Danooks.
Absolutely. We can see her here on the screen right now. She's trying to change her settings on the gun. So for each position, you will have different settings on your gun, and you have to change over, which is why when we move to the finals and we have a set changeover time, it's so crucial that athletes know exactly where, what needs to go where, and it just needs to be automatized so that, you don't waste a second. But here, I mean, obviously she's fast, so she can take her time on the changeover. But yeah, we see her change the sights right now.
Another look at the midshipmen, all three in prone now. Two of them have moved on to competitive shots, Milvain and Duncan. Deontay Hayes still sighting in.
Deontay actually is a state champion of South Carolina, which is a really, really cool accomplishment.
We're going to step aside. Our coverage will continue from Morgantown, West Virginia. The 2024 National Rifle Championships continue right after this. Stay with me. Welcome back. The 2024 NCAA National Rifle Championships continue live from Morgantown, West Virginia, inside the WVU Coliseum, where Smallbore Relay #1 is well underway. Nick Farrell here alongside former All-American Mountaineer shooter Verena Zeisberger. Verena, West Virginia, maybe just okay here through the first bit of the Smallbore Relay. Gavin Barnick has now gone through his first 40 shots. He's sighting in for standing shots. Where do you think the Mountaineers stand? They are the #1 seed and the favorite to win the team title.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done well. So I know that from Molly and how she's done this past season, she might not be absolutely happy with her first series, I will say that. And I mean, like a few years ago, if you'd seen these scores, you'd be like, oh my God, they're just gonna, destroy all this. But this year, I will say scores are getting so high that even if you just drop a few, it can, get in the way of winning the thing, which is definitely their objective. So I think they're still, nothing is lost. They have good, kneeling scores. And, I mean, Gavin has a perfect 200 in prone. So we'll just have to see. And honestly, standing is the one where you can lose the most amount of points. So a lot of the times, things don't get decided until standing. And I think they put it on purpose for the last position so that you really hang on till the last minute.
And not to mention, too, that West Virginia has its two best Smallbore shooters set for the second relay later today, which starts roughly noon Eastern time. Matt Sanchez, the senior from Tampa, Florida, is top 5 in the nation Smallbore average, and Mary Tucker, the former NCAA national champion, 2-time overall individual champion at that, will also shoot in the second relay this afternoon. She leads the country with a 592.8 average this season in Smallbore.
Yeah, and that being said, in the on the W team, there's really no one that I'm concerned about. They're only strong shooters. So even in the second relay, like you just said, those are exceptionally good shooters. So I have no concerns there.
And what a terrific job West Virginia has done this season. The team with the 4 highest aggregate score totals anywhere in the country this season. West Virginia. That is how good head coach John Hammond's program is this year in his 18th season with the Mountaineers, just putting up record number after record number as individuals and as a team, and just doing the job terrifically well to get here to the national championship with that #1 seed well in hand.
Yeah, I mean, WU always has done a good job in the preseason, but we haven't had a season like this in a long time. I will say, they have done exceptionally well. So
Mountaineers won the GARC, 13-0 record this season, 6-0 in the conference. Last month, earning the program's 16th Great American Rifle Conference title with an NCAA record aggregate score, 74-59. Meanwhile, the TCU Horned Frogs won the Patriot Rifle Conference. They're the #2 seed. Taking a look now at the Cornhuskers from Nebraska, number 8 seed in our competition. Mackenzie Stroh on the right, along with her teammates Emma Rode and Cecilia Ossie.
Yeah, Cecilia Ossie, I mean, she's a senior, but she, as a junior last year, she won the NCAA Smallbore individual championship, so really good right there. I believe they also have a freshman in their lineup that we don't see just now, but they have some really good shooters there.
That's right, Charlie Mick is the freshman from Colorado. She'll shoot later today, along with Camilla Johannesson, the sophomore from Norway. Mixture of Horned Frogs and Wildcats on your screen now, including Sophia Ciccarello, Kentucky's star sophomore, and Braden Pizer, the exciting freshman from San Angelo, Texas.
Yeah, and if you look at the scoreboard, like he's done really well so far. Pro might not be maybe what he wanted to see, but his kneeling was really good. So he's still in the running for sure. Just needs a good standing score, and we're fine.
Looking at Pizer, he did in his last 5 shots 4 10s and 1 9. He shot a 353 so far. Meanwhile, Ciccarello is only on her 5th prone shot. She shot a 199 kneeling and has added 5 more 10s prone to get to a 249. Make it a 259. She nails another 10. Barnick for West Virginia sighting in prone. His 2 Mountaineer teammates, McGinn and Lake, already into their competitive prone shots.
Yeah, and then to the right we have Katie Zahn.
Zahn is terrific too, isn't she, Verena? Sophomore from North Dakota. 3rd best small bore average in the country, just above 590.
Yeah, and she's also a really nice girl. We actually had her for a visit. She was visiting different schools, and we were one of them. And she's just a really kind girl, so I like her a lot.
TCU has had 4 Horned Frogs win small bore national titles, including in 2019, an event that was hosted here at the WVU Coliseum. This is the 2nd time in program history that the West Virginia rifle team has hosted the national championships. Horned Frogs also won the team title that year, their 3rd and most recent team title. Aggregate champions in 2010, 2012, and 2019.
Yeah, so that year, like you said, it was hosted in Morgantown, and I think they actually had a record spectator-wise in the Coliseum.
And that is the hope for this weekend. Was chatting with West Virginia Director of Athletics Ren Baker. He's hopeful that will be the case here either between today and tomorrow to break that attendance record that was set back in 2019.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they do a beautiful job venue-wise here, and I feel like West Virginia is just really proud of their rifle team, so I could see that being done for sure.
Back to the midshipmen, led by a former Mountaineer in Mike Ante, who's in his 7th year as head coach at Navy, the father of Will Ante, the 4th-year head coach of the Alaska Fairbanks squad that won the national title last season.
Yeah, Mike Ante was an exceptional shooter himself. He actually he won a medal at the Olympic Games, so can't hurt to learn from him, you know.
Mentioned to me last night that he fondly remembers his time as a student at West Virginia. Says he just missed the Major Harris days on the gridiron. Of course, Major Harris, the iconic West Virginia football quarterback who led the Mountaineers to a national championship appearance in 1988. Okay, here's another look at Sara Karasova of Alaska Fairbanks, still sighting in her standing shots. She right now is the relay leader with a 399, 39 10s, and just 1 pesky 9 to keep her off the pace of a perfect score.
Yep. And we see also on the scoreboard Stephanie Grunzo. She has a really good prone group right there, and she hasn't dropped a point so far.
Good catch, Verena. 18 shots, all 10s for a 180 from the prone position.
Yeah. Cecilia Aussie actually has an amazing group too. She just had some struggles in her first series, but it seems like she recovered from those struggles really, really well.
So not only, back to TCU, not only has Grunso shot extremely well prone, Katie Zahn, her teammate, is citing in her standing shots 199 kneeling, 199 prone for a 398 through 40 shots. So between Karasova and Zahn, those two are the front runners for a spot in this afternoon's small bore individual final, which will start at about 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, it's really going to be hard to pick a favorite among all of these teams. Like, they're putting up really, really good scores so far. So we're going to have to be patient until the very end.
2 small bore relays today, followed by an individual championship at about 3 p.m. tomorrow. It's all air rifle on day 2 of the 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships. First air rifle series tomorrow morning. Second air rifle series in the afternoon. We'll crown a team champion and then go on to crown an individual air rifle champion to close out our national championships. Our coverage tomorrow will begin at about the same time, roughly 9:15 Eastern time. Hope you'll join us for both days of this exciting 2-day national championship event from the Mountain State. Back to the top seed and host West Virginia. Gavin Barnick sighting in standing shots. He has a 396 through 40. So after shooting a 196 kneeling, goes with 20 10s and completes a perfect series. And again, all of this so important, not just for the individual qualifiers. You've mentioned the team scoring. Top 4 scores in each discipline count. Each of these 8 teams can drop 1 individual score per discipline. We were talking strategy with West Virginia rifle coach John Hammond, and he says, like, it's so hard in the moment to know that there is some strategy and math that goes into compiling that total team score, right, Verena? Because you could have one team shoot 3 really solid scores that are all right there in a line, and then maybe you have another team that shoots 2 super high numbers and 1 really low number. And sometimes that's the better situation, because you can just hack that low number out, put it away like it never happened, and keep those 2 really high scores to put you on pace for a team title.
Absolutely, and I feel like that's where your job as a coach gets a little bit difficult, because it is really a strategy thing, and there are some coaches that might go for, let's say, safe shooter that is fairly stable around the same scores, or you might want to take a risk and take somebody who might not be as, as consistent, but has some really, really good days, and then you kind of bank on that athlete having a really good day on the day of championships. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. I'm not envious of the decisions that the coaches have to make, but there's some strategy for sure, yeah.
Quick score update. The Navy midshipmen, 2 student athletes sighting in standing shots. Marley Duncan at 393 through 40. Deontay Hayes at 387. And it looks like Stephanie Milvain has just wrapped up her prone shots. She's also at 393 after shooting 10 consecutive 10s in the second half of her prone portion of her relay.
Yeah, Leah Horvath also just finished her prone series with a perfect score of 200.
Horvath now to a 396 through 40. The senior from Hungary for the Ole Miss Rebels, who as a team are making their 5th NCAA tournament appearance. This is Martina Grotz, senior from Illinois. Didn't have a great showing at the GARC championships in small bore, but was really solid in air rifle. That seems to be her preferred discipline. Shot a 596 at the GARC air rifle championship. Just missed out on the final. And again, when you have somebody like West Virginia's Gavin Barnick shooting a 600 in the relay series to qualify as a finalist for the individual championship, man, that makes it so much harder to qualify. A 596 is not a bad score necessarily.
Absolutely. I mean, I looked at the conference championships results, and the results that you needed to get into the final, just the top 8, were insane. And I mean, guys like him just really make it difficult. And he actually shot at the GARC championships, or the conference championships, he shot an 1193, which means that across airgun and small bore combined, he only shot 7 9s.
Right.
Among 120 shots.
And it wasn't even good enough to win the aggregate title.
Yes,
he placed second.
That's the depressing part about it.
Just some incredible scores posted all over the country.
Yeah, these athletes are just amazing. There's can't say anything about it. It's just breathtaking.
By the way, if you're wondering, it was Braden Pizer from Kentucky who won the aggregate championship at the GARC conference title shoot a couple of weeks ago, back in February, with an 1194 to edge Barnick by just 1 point. One shot made all the difference there.
Yep, that's a characteristic of our sport for sure, and I mean of other sports as well. But really, like, it's about like sometimes a 10th of a point. If we later, we will see the finals, and we will see how, sometimes whether you have a 9 point, whether you have a 10.0 or a 10.1 can make a huge difference. And in the relays, whether you have a 9.9 or a 10.0 can make all the difference. So you will hear shooters complain when they have a 9.9 and they just lost a point by barely, nothing. It can be devastating sometimes, which is what our sport really has to offer. That the nerves get a little high when it's really about a point sometimes, or a 10th of a point.
And a quick reminder, if you're just joining us, 2 different scoring methods will be in effect today. During the relays, it's integer scoring. So as Verena just mentioned, whether you shoot a 9.1, a 9.5, a 9.9, it still counts as a 9. But later today, in the 8-person individual final, we'll go to decimal scoring, and that's when those margins just get so thin.
Yes, absolutely.
Taking another look at scoring, and one other thing to point out about another unique wrinkle in rifle, if you're seeing X's by those numbers, and let me make sure I have this right, Verena, those are centers, and technically those could come into play if we have a tiebreaker at some point.
That's exactly it. So some people call them centers, some people call them X's, and they're basically, in small bore, it's anything at 10.3 and above is a center. And so if we have 2 shooters and let's say it's about who makes it into the final, and we have a tie between 8th and 9th place, that tie will be broken by X count. So they go through the whole match and count basically who has more X's, and that will break the tie. In finals, it's a little bit different. So when you do have a tie, then it's really just a shot for just those 2 athletes, and that will break the tie. But X's are more important, really, for the relays that we have.
Continuing to look at scores here, Carter Silva still sighting in standing shots. Is the leader through 40 with a 399. Sophia Ciccarello from Kentucky at a 397 through her first 40 shots. Shot it better kneeling than she did prone. Had 2 9s during her 20-shot series from the prone position.
That's amazing, yeah. So in theory, you should shoot the best result in prone, then the next one in kneeling, and then the lowest score should usually be standing. But it's funny to see sometimes people will just, like we see now, like they have a better score in kneeling than in prone, sometimes even better scores in standing than in prone, which is really funny to see. But in theory, usually standing, you drop the most points.
Kentucky, 2 really terrific small bore shooters. Ciccarello leads Kentucky with a 587.5 average on the season. That's good for top 10 in the country. And then we had mentioned the true freshman Braden Pizer earlier. His season average is a 584.5, but over the last several weeks has really come on strong, has put together some of his best career performances, including that career-high 597 at the GARC Championships that put him on pace to finish at the conference championship with the top aggregate score in the field, an 1194.
Which really tells you a lot. Like his average is 584.5, and his career high is 597. So that's a huge jump. And I mean, as a freshman shooting a 597 in small bore, like even my senior year, I could have not dreamt of that score.
Looking here at Gavin Barnick for West Virginia, maybe a little bit of frustration setting in for Barnick. Just shot an 8.8.
Yep, that's not what we want to see.
First time that he shot something below a 9 so far this morning. His total score of 441. He shot 5 standing shots, 45 total shots. Has 15 more to go, so certainly still time to recover. Our coverage of the National Rifle Championships continues from Morgantown, West Virginia, inside the WVU Coliseum. We'll step aside for a quick break. More small bore relay number 1 coming your way right after this. Stay with us. The 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships continue live from the WVU Coliseum in Morgantown, West Virginia. Small bore relay 1 continues. Timing-wise, roughly halfway through this relay event, but quite a few of our shooters have already moved in to standing shots, or at least sighting from the standing position. Looking at TCU, wow, the Horned Frogs are having an incredible morning so far. Katie's on Stephanie Grunso and Stephanie Allen are shooting here in the first relay for TCU, the number 2 seed in our tournament. Zahn, a sophomore, Grunso, a grad student, and Allen, a grad student. So quite a good bit of experience for the Horned Frogs, and they're putting it on display right now. Zahn, who's sighting in from the standing position, had shot a 199 kneeling and a 199 prone to bring her to a 398 through 40 shots. Meanwhile, Grunso, the native of Denmark, had a perfect 200 from the kneeling position to bring her score to 396, and then Stephanie Allen is right there in the mix with a 392 through her first 40 shots. But between Zahn and Grunso, the Horned Frogs are cooking in this opening small bore relay. Meanwhile, our leader through the first 40 shots was Sara Karasova of Alaska Fairbanks. She's into her first 6 shots from the standing position. 3 10s, 3 9s. So once again, off to a good start for Karasova. Nick Farrell with you alongside Verena Zeisberger, the former CRCA and NRA All-American shooter for the West Virginia Mountaineers. So happy to have you along for the national championships. Our second small bore relay is coming up later today, set to start at about noon Eastern time. 8 competitors from these 2 small bore relays will reach the individual final, which will start at roughly 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, I feel like we might actually have some, maybe, I mean, it's difficult to say. We are nowhere finishing standing, but I feel like there might be some ties maybe, because there's just so much good shooting going on right now. But we will see. Gavin Barnick still trying to recover from his first serious with that 8, which an 8 hurts, so it's difficult to recover from that. But he seems to be getting a tighter group, so we will see.
Looks like he's taken 12 shots from the standing position. Barnick has had a 94 through his first 10.
Yeah, so he's doing his last 8 shots for this small bore match.
Looking at Ole Miss, the number 6 seeded Rebels, led by their first-year head coach Rachel Martin. They placed 4th at last year's national championship event, but as a team did finish 2nd in Smallbore. That's the best finish in program history. Last season they were led by Marcia Beasley, the longtime rifle coach at Ole Miss, retired during the offseason after 22 seasons, won more than 200 competitions over 2 decades plus as the leader of the Rebels.
She actually used to be the coach for WU.
Is that right?
Yes, before John, which is really cool. So she was actually introduced into the Hall of Fame, I think, 1 or 2 years ago. So
man, so many of the coaches have connections to West Virginia.
Absolutely.
We've already mentioned the Antes. Will, the head coach of Alaska Fairbanks, who won the national championship last year. His father, Mike Ante, the head coach of the Navy midshipmen in his 7th year. He's a WVU Sports Hall of Famer. You mentioned that Will, his son, was your teammate at West Virginia for a period of time.
That is correct. So we were on the same team for, well, actually just a semester because I skipped my fall semester, but he was the team leader for that year, and he was a really good team leader. So you could see the qualities that he will use as a coach for sure.
Okay, here's another update on the scoring. You see Karasova on the top line. She had one of the best scores through 40 shots. Hasn't really wavered from the standing position. A couple of 9s, a few 10s in there.
And we actually see from Morgan Crabb, he is starting to sight in, and you can see he shot a 7 right now, which he's in sighter, so we're all good. But that's what sighters are for, to kind of sight in your gun, because it might be sighted into a 7 high, as we see with him, and you're clicking your sights to be at the center. So that's what sighters are for, to really sight in your gun, literally.
So walk me through that process a little bit further, Verena. You can really, in this relay portion at least, you can really take your time with those sighters to make sure you're as close to perfect as possible before you fire. And so really, if you move quickly through your previous 2 positions, then you can really take your time to get ready.
Yes, and I think there is a balance to strike, because you don't want to oversight. I mean, there's a preference for everyone, but you don't want to spend an eternity in sighters. You want to, at some point, switch to match. So I think that even if you are a very quick shooter, it's not the best strategy to just spend a lot of time on sighters, because you want to keep the same rhythm. You want to keep moving on. And sometimes people kind of go into a hole with sighters, but it is preference for sure.
Sighters essentially practice shots to get you ready in between positions, but it does get tougher when we get to the individual final later today, and this is something that we'll have to keep a close eye on during the championship round, because the changeover period, including sighting time, gets much, much shorter, and it's standardized for every individual competitor, right? You only get roughly 7 minutes to change from kneeling to prone, and then 9 minutes to change from prone to standing. So it does get maybe a little bit more pressure-packed at that point.
It is absolutely pressure-packed, I will say. I mean, and that's, again, where fast shooters definitely have an advantage. You want fast changeovers, and you want to be a fast shooter so that you can get in a lot of sighting shots. And I mean, compared to like the relay, we have 15 minutes to sight in for kneeling, but we can change our gun before, we can get into position before, we can do some holding. So it's really just the sighting time. In the final, moving over to prone, your changeover time is 7 minutes to change your gun, get into position, and do sighters. So different situation there.
Here's a look at competitors from Air Force, the shooters for the Falcons, who are the number 3 seed, Victoria Leppert, Morgan Krebs, and Scott Rocket. They're led by 17th-year head coach Lonnie Miley, who won an Olympic gold medal in Barcelona in Smallbore in 1992, the first American-born woman to win a gold medal in that discipline. By the way, another West Virginia connection there, assistant coach Dave Johnson for Air Force also shot at West Virginia. I think there's 4, maybe 5 head or assistant coaches that have some sort of tie to the West Virginia University rifle team that are here this week for the national championships.
Yeah, I mean, even Soren Butler, he's the head coach of Georgia Southern. He has an individual qualifier here, and he was our assistant coach for, I'm not quite sure for how many years, but he just recently got the head coaching position. So there's just people that either go through West Virginia as an athlete or as an assistant or as a head coach.
Just saw a moment ago a quick look at the Ole Miss Rebels. Now on your screen, it's West Virginia, the host team, once again. Griffin Lake is still sighting in. So is Molly McGinn on the right side of your screen. Meanwhile, Gavin Barnick continuing to fire away from the standing position. His last 5 shots, 3 9s and 2 10s.
Yeah, and you can see, I mean, he is generally a fast shooter, but you can see how he's now slowing down. He's trying to make sure to really make the most out of his last few shots. His standing hasn't been what he wanted it to be, and he's really, you can tell, like, he's really trying to make the most out of it now.
We were just discussing Ole Miss, Leah Horvath, Kristen Durding, and Martina Grotz. Horvath is sighting in her standing shots. 396 through her first 40. Really solid to put her there among some of the top competitors in our first relay. Meanwhile, Nebraska, Cecilia Ossie, 396 through her first 40. Terrific stuff for the senior from New Jersey. She's Nebraska's leader in small bore average. Her 587.4 average puts her just outside the top 10 nationally. But if she can finish with 20 quality shots from the standing position, she's going to be right there in the mix for a spot in this afternoon's final.
Yeah, and I mean, it would be amazing to see her do well again, even if she just ends up on the podium twice in a row, 2023 champion, and then again. That would just be amazing to see.
Placed 3rd in the PRC at the Smallbore Championship back in February. Had a 589 to qualify for the championship round, and then placed 3rd in the individual final in that concentration. Ended up with the 7th best aggregate score in the Patriot Rifle Conference Championships, 1183. Shooters from Ole Miss and Nebraska on your screen. Looks like Leah Horvath has now gone into her match shots from the standing position, going to cycle through her final 20 attempts.
Yeah, Leah Horvath is definitely someone to look out for in both positions or in both disciplines. She's very balanced, a good small bore shooter and good air rifle shooter. So we will see more from her, I believe, tomorrow.
Back to West Virginia, the Mountaineers looking to contend for a team championship once again. They've not won a team title since 2017, the end of a true dynasty run in NCAA rifle, winning every single national championship 5-year period, 2013 through 2017. But last year, head coach John Hammond's team placed 5th at the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, dynasty is a really good word for that. They did really well for just a number of years. And recently, we've been struggling a little bit, and I definitely think the potential was there, but it seems that this season was the first season where we could actually put that potential to work. So I'm really excited to see, what we're going to see the day after the second relay.
Griffin Lake, the true freshman from Pennsylvania, looking back at Coach Hammond to get some instructions.
We also have Gavin Barnett, who just finished his 3x20.
And Barnick, you're right, has wrapped up with a 585, which is just a touch below his season average.
Yeah, again, I mean, if that was to be the score that needed to be dropped, that would be a good score to drop. So I'm not worried yet at all, even though I'm sure he's not quite happy with that score, but got to keep in mind that's still a pretty good score.
So why don't we take a look at some of the other scores for our competitors? If you're looking at West Virginia, Barnick has finished his series, his 3x20 with a 5.85. Lake and McGinn both still have shots to go. They're both still sighting in from the standing position. Meanwhile, let's go to Sara Karasova on the top row, Alaska Fairbanks. She has done a terrific job so far and is continuing to pepper the target with 10s.
Yeah, she's doing really, really well so far. Seeing her getting back into position right there. That's another thing, like you will see a lot of shooters kind of getting out of position, maybe going back to their coaches, talking stuff over with their coaches. A lot of the times when we might not be doing so well, we need a reset with our position, or we might want to talk to a coach for our mental game or to go over any technical stuff. So you will see a lot of people going in and out of positions.
So even when you're in your match shots, it's maybe not a bad time always to step back, reassess things, and talk it over with a coach.
Yeah, and again, this is personal preference. Some people just kind of stick it out. I was one of them. I rarely went back to my coaches, but I definitely went out of position a lot of the times. The only time where that's just really not an option time-wise is during the finals. Mm-hmm. During the finals, you're out on your own, and you gotta go through it either way.
How much of this sport is about rhythm?
I think a lot of it to a point, and there's different reasons for it. I will say if you start out shooting and you might not be a top shooter yet, you can get a lot from just consistency and rhythm and repetition, really. When it comes to the actual top shooters, you definitely want to have a rhythm, and a faster rhythm will definitely come into play if you're shooting internationally and outdoors. As I said, if there's wind or weather changes, you really want to have a fast rhythm and also be flexible with that.
Nick Farrell and Verena Zeisberger here with you. The 2024 NCAA National Rifle Championships continue from the Coliseum in Morgantown, West Virginia. Day one of our two-day event underway with the first small bore relay. Second small bore relay is coming up at about noon Eastern time, and an individual champion will also be crowned in small bore later this afternoon. Right now, you're looking at the TCU Horned Frogs.
Yeah, we actually see Stephanie Allen here, and she actually had a career high this season of a perfect 600 in air rifle, so very, very good air rifle shooter.
Her also career high in small bore, shot this season a 5.97, which is tied for the best season high in the field. Two other shooters have accomplished that same feat. Braden Pizer of Kentucky, who's shooting now. And there is one other student athlete who's done the same. I'm going to have to find that note later, but I know there's a third.
Yeah, I will say though, Pizer is, as we said, like he's a freshman, so to do that in your first year, in your first season, that is absolutely incredible. I mean, usually people kind of, not that they struggle, but you kind of warm up to the field, you warm up to what competitions are like. So to just start out like that, similarly to Griffin Lake, he also as a freshman just got right into it. That is very, very impressive for sure.
To the Air Force Falcons, number 3 seed, looking to earn their first team title. They finished as runners-up twice back in the 90s, consecutive seasons, 1995, 1996. Their only individual champion ever is on your screen right now. Scott Rocket, speaking of tremendous true freshmen, did so in the air rifle discipline in his first season as a collegiate shooter for the Falcons. Won the NCAA Air Rifle Championship in 2022 by shooting a 5.98 in the relay round, and followed that up with a 2.50.2 to win the national championship.
Yeah, right next to him is Morgan Craig. She actually also shot a very good air rifle score, career high of 599, which again is very close to a 600. It's interesting how, you know, 600 to 599, that's really just 1 point, but the air gets really thin up there. So to not shoot that last 9 can take it out of you.
All right, our first small bore relay is winding down. We're going to step aside for one more quick break and come back with the continuation and completion of this opening small bore relay at the 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships, live from Morgantown, West Virginia. Our coverage from the Mountain State continues right after this. So glad to have you with us. The NCAA Rifle Championships continuing from the WVU Coliseum here in Morgantown, West Virginia. Small bore relay number 1 continues. And let's take a look at the scores once again. So, Verena, we were just chatting in the break. We noticed that a lot of these student athletes are taking their time with sighters, and they do have that luxury in the relay. Why are they doing that, though? Is it because the standing position from small bore can be the most challenging?
Yeah, so, I mean, people will be good at standing or not so good, like it might be their favorite position or not, but either way, standing is the riskiest position out of all of them because your hold is going to be bigger, and hold meaning how much you move with the gun. That's called a hold. And so if your hold is bigger, that just means that you're moving around more. And typically in standing, it's really hard to not move because it's just a very balance-oriented position. So your hold is going to be very big, and you might notice on the screens here, we have a lot bigger groups. The shots are a little bit more all over the place compared to prone, for example. So it is the likelihood of shooting something like an 8 or a 7, which is really not what you want to see, is a lot higher in standing. So it's the most crucial position out of all of them, arguably.
Still seeing that a handful of our student athletes are still sighting from the standing position. So, for example, Rachel Charles from Alaska still going through her practice shots to get ready. Looking here at Air Force, Scott Rocket, Morgan Krebs, Victoria Leppert, the competitors in this first relay. We'll see Panina D'Souza and Lauren Hurley shoot small bore in the second relay for Air Force.
Griffin Lake just changed over to competition for his last 20 shots. When he actually started with an 8. So this is a very tricky position to find yourself in. It is really hard to recover from an 8, and to start your last 20 shots with an 8 is really hard to come back from mentally.
And we saw something very similar happen with Gavin Barnick. I'm not sure it was his first shot of the standing series, but definitely within his first 5, Barnick for West Virginia had a couple of 8s.
Yeah, I believe it was actually his first 5 shots, and I mean, he did a good job by like kind of coming back to it, but it is very difficult, and I'm sure that it cost him some of his mental game in that moment. So we'll see how Griffin handles this situation.
So Lake and McGinn, left and right on your screen right now for West Virginia, still shooting their competitive standing shots. McGinn at a 430 through her first 44 shots, including 4 from the standing position. Lake has only taken the 1 shot, an 8.9, which again, since we're using integer scoring for these relays, it counts as an 8, even though technically it's closer to a 9.
Exactly.
It still counts as an 8.
It's an 8.9. It's just heartbreaking.
And so then Gavin Barnick, who has already concluded his relay, 60 shots with a 585. We might be too early to assume what Coach John Hammond is going to do with team scoring, but that one could be the one that's dropped for West Virginia because the Mountaineers are in a good situation still with their 2 best small bore shooters, Matt Sanchez and Mary Tucker, still to come in the second relay.
Absolutely, and that's we already see so many good scores on the board here, but we have to keep in mind there's another relay, so to get into the final and to post good Smallbore scores, it's going to be difficult. There's a lot of good people here. Also, Lake actually followed up his 8 with a 10, which was very well done, so good for him.
Meanwhile, McGinn, her last 5 shots, 3 10s and 2 9s.
Another 10 for her.
Make it 4 10s and 2 9s through her last 6 to bring her to a 450.
It also seems that Lake might have been woken up by that 8 because he followed it up with 2 10s, so he seems to be on a good road to recovery.
University of Mississippi on your screen. Leah Horvath, Christy Durding, Martina Grotz shooting. Katie Tedeschi and Emma Pereira will be the 2 competitors for the Rebels in the second Smallbore relay. Quick score check on these athletes from Mississippi. Horvath, a 550. She's got 4 shots to go. Durding has gone 9 consecutive standing shots with 10s. All 9 of her standing shots, in fact, with 10s to bring her to a 478. And then Grotz hovering around a 419. She has just begun her competitive standing shots. So solid scores so far from the number 6 seed Ole Miss Rebels. Why don't we take a look at more scores?
Yeah, and actually talking about University of Mississippi, Horvath actually has a really good standing group. So if you look at that, that's something that you want to see for standing.
Kristen Durding there has just shot her first 9 after 9 consecutive 10s from the standing position. Still a really solid number as she's halfway through this 20-shot relay.
Yeah, I feel like people might not realize how difficult that truly is to do, to have a 99 and standing. I mean, that's something that you could shoot in prone. In prone, the rifle really doesn't move, so very impressive.
Looks like Stephanie Allen has just concluded for TCU. Shot a 191 from the standing position and a 583 score overall.
Yeah, she shot that 7 that really cost her a lot of points. Those are the things that you will see in standing, which can really turn around the whole game. Like it can be a game changer to watch the last 20 shots for those athletes.
And again, we're talking about the finest of margins, truly millimeters.
Yep.
Look at your pinky finger. That might be the difference about from one score to the next.
Absolutely.
Back to the Falcons of Air Force. Victoria Leppert, Morgan Krebs, Scott Rocket. Rocket just fired an 8 on his 6th standing shot. He's at 57 from the standing position. 4 10s, a 9, and an 8, bringing him to 450 for the total series. Meanwhile, Krebs, all 9s and 10s so far from the standing position. Onto her 11th shot, just popped a 9 to bring her total to 499. Entering this competition as a team, West Virginia was the squad with the best small bore average for the season, about 10 points better than the team that was second in the country in small bore average, TCU. Mountaineers 23.58 for their small bore average compared to 23.49 for TCU. And then Air Force was third in the nation in small bore team average. Those numbers include conference championships and NCAA qualifiers. Alaska Fairbanks fourth, Kentucky fifth in this discipline, then Georgia Southern sixth. And we were talking about Georgia Southern, a squad that does have one individual qualifier that we'll see tomorrow in air rifle. It's Emma Poilmann, the sophomore from Germany. Maybe just a little bit disappointing that Georgia Southern wasn't able to reach the national championships as a team. They were right there in the mix up until the very last minute and just couldn't get across the line. I think got jumped by Navy and maybe one other team to fall out of the top 8.
Yeah, and that is really, it's devastating because they have been doing so well this season. And, you know, with a coaching change, it would have been amazing for that program. But, you know, they just had this coaching change. They're still building all of those good foundations that make a good team. And so the fact that after just 2 years of a coaching change, they do so well, I think we're going to see a lot of good things from that team.
Nebraska Cornhuskers now on your screen. Ossie, Rode, Stroud. We'll see Mick and Johannesson during the second relay, which is set to start in just about 90 minutes, give or take, around noon Eastern time. We hope you'll be with us throughout our 3 sessions today. Second relay coming up at noon, individual final beginning at about 3 p.m. from the WVU Coliseum. Back to Air Force. Leppert there in the middle. She's up to 5'11". On to her last shot for the series. And there was the announcement from our Chief Range Officer, 10 minutes to go in the small bore relay. By the way, Chief Range Officer is Earl Litherland. Public address announcer Bill Nevin inside the Coliseum today. We'll likely hear more from those two gentlemen later today during our championship round.
Yeah, and talking about time limits here, we have a lot of fast shooters in this relay, but you can see quite a bit of shooters are coming down to their last 10 shots, which means that really for each shot they have about a minute left, which can be enough for sure. But if you're struggling and it's NCAA championships and you know you might be struggling with something, a minute can be very, very short. So people might be trying to speed it up a little bit, but so far everybody seems to be doing well time-wise.
Just saw Braden Pizer, the true freshman from Kentucky, on your screen a moment ago after shooting 10 consecutive 10s in the first portion of his standing series. He has continued to shoot it really, really strong. He's down to his final standing shot, 186 for this portion. If he hits a 10 here, that would end him with a 196 from the standing position and bring him to about a 589 for the full relay. And that would be another competition in which he shot above his season average. He has done that almost by habit through the month of February and into March.
Yeah, I mean, that's really when you want to be on a roll. We talk a lot about, strategy from an athlete side and trying to control that as much as you can, but you really want to peak around this time, and to be able to do that at NCAAs is very impressive.
And Pizer does indeed fire a 10. He's looking up at the scoreboard to see his work. 196 from the standing position and a 589 for the 60-shot series.
And again, like finishing strong and standing at NCAAs when you are nervous, when you are on a good road to a good score, that is very impressive. So good for him. Absolutely.
True freshman, can't say it enough, shooting above his average here in the national championships. And even if it's not good enough to qualify for an individual final, he's done his job to contribute a solid score to the Wildcats, who are making their 31st team appearance in the NCAA Rifle Championships.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a squad that perennially finishes in the top 5. 22 top 5 finishes in their history.
Yeah, I mean, historically, Kentucky, TCU, and West Virginia were really the dominant teams throughout the history of NCAA. So Kentucky is a good team to be on.
Wildcats finished in 3rd place last year at the national championships. They've won 3 of the last 5 contested team titles. Of course, contested meaning not counting 2020. There was no national championship that year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Wildcats led by longtime head coach Harry Mullins in his 36th season. Just one of 2 head coaches in Kentucky history, any sport, with 4 or more national championships.
We also see Stephanie Grunzo. She actually finished with a very nice standing series and put a good score on the board right there.
Absolutely. So 196 standing series to give her a 592 for the relay. Also just recently finishing is Sara Karasova from Alaska Fairbanks. She concluded with a 593 through all 60 shots after shooting a 194 from the standing position.
Yeah, finishing her score with 410s. It's really, I mean, even for me as an athlete, it's very impressive to see. In standing, usually you see when the nerves shine through a little bit. That's when people might break down. So to see them just finish with one good standing after the other is very impressive.
So by my count, and there are still competitors with shots to go, but by my count, Karasova is likely going to conclude this relay as the top scorer with that 593. Maybe one of our athletes could get within striking distance of that before we conclude this relay. Then that would put Grunso right now also in position.
5 minutes.
As we get the 5-minute cue from our chief rifle officer. Grunso with a 592, that would also put her in prime position to qualify for the individual final. Okay, let's take a look at these scores. So there, Karasova on the top line of your screen now, 593. Let's find Grunso on the third line on the left, 592 after shooting a 196 from the standing position. Braden Pizer, 589, maybe could be in the mix. We'll have to see how things go this afternoon in our second relay.
Yeah, I would assume that in the second relay, I mean, again, just for West Virginia, Matt Sanchez and Mary Tucker, they both have easily the potential to be in the 590s. So I think we will see quite a bit of scores in the 590s, which might mean that with a high 80, you might not make the final.
West Virginia's last 2 competitors are Griffin Lake and Molly McGinn. Gavin Barnick finished, might have been the first student athlete to conclude with a 585. Lake just hit a 10, followed up a 9.9 with a 10.0 to bring him to 578. And so this last shot is so critical for him. A 588, not just for the team score, but maybe you could be sniffing around there in the high 80s with a chance to get into that final.
Yeah, that might still make it, honestly. So that's a situation where we find ourselves in, where it's really the last shot that can decide, are you going to make it or are you not going to make it?
Meanwhile, Molly McGinn there on the right of your screen, reloading. She has 2 standing shots to go. She shot a 174 so far from the standing position with 2 shots left, 566 for the relay. So both of these Mountaineers have critical shots forthcoming. Barnick has just fired, Lake is still getting ready to fire his 10th.
Yeah.
Sorry, his 20th shot.
Yeah, he's rejecting his shot a lot, which really means that he's trying to take his time, trying to really focus on this last shot. Because he knows that it could mean making the final or not making the final. We see Griffin kind of looking back to the coaches, a little smile on his lips. He knows that this shot counts.
Just over 2 minutes remaining in the Smallbore relay. Just about every athlete is within 2 shots of concluding. Got about 6 competitors still to go, including all 3 from Air Force.
And we see Lake finishing with the 9, which he might not be happy about, but we got to keep in mind 587 is still a really good score to put on the board.
Meanwhile, for Kentucky, that's the squad that's going to be right behind, it would appear, TCU for the moment. We've got Grunso finishing with a 592 and Zahn finishing with a 590. And so with 3 athletes shooting 590 or better so far in this small bore relay, it really looks like, Verena, 590 is going to have to be the cutoff for the final, you'd imagine.
It might honestly be, which, again, I want to emphasize how crazy that is, really. I mean, 590, in my career, my best result that I put up was 593, which is only 3 points above that, so...
And in fact, I've overlooked one. Cecilia Ossie, final line of your screen, 591 for Nebraska after shooting a 195 from the standing position. That's also going to be in contention for the final. So Ossie a 591, followed by Zahn's 590 for TCU. That puts 2 Horned Frogs at 590 or better. And that's going to have TCU feeling really, really good through the first relay, especially not just about maybe putting 2 Horned Frogs or more in the individual final, but TCU right now is the team that appears to be setting the pace in terms of team scoring.
Yes, and I feel like that's what's helped them really, is that they are very consistent throughout the season, but they really don't crack under pressure in NCAAs. I feel like that's something that I've noticed in the past few years. They are very consistent under pressure, which obviously is going to help them out here.
Well, that concludes our first relay with 1.3 seconds on the clock. Somebody got their last shot in just before the proverbial buzzer. So a terrific first relay. The top score is Sara Karasova of the University of Alaska Fairbanks, followed by Stephanie Grunso with a 592 for TCU. Our second small bore relay is set to begin at noon Eastern time here from the WVU Coliseum in about 75 minutes. We hope you'll join us for the second relay, which is set for noon Eastern, followed by the individual small bore championship coming up at approximately 3 Eastern time. Nick Farrell and Verena Zeisberger will be so glad to have you aboard for our coverage as it continues from the NCAA Rifle Championships here in Morgantown, West Virginia at noon Eastern for the second small bore relay. We'll talk to you then.
End of preparation, deciding, stop.
The 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships continue live from the WVU Coliseum in Morgantown, West Virginia. Our second small bore relay is about to begin as we continue day one of our 2-day national championship competition. Nick Farrell here along with former All-American shooter Verena Zeisberger. Let's take a quick look at the first round of action today. Our top scorers from earlier this morning. Relay number 1, 4 590 plus scores, led by Sara Karasova of Alaska Fairbanks, posting a 593 in her 60-shot small bore series, followed by Stephanie Grunso of TCU, Cecilia Ossie of Nebraska with a 591, and Katie Zahn, a second Horned Frog, in the top 4 with a 590 herself. That's given TCU a sizable lead in the team scoring early on. But Verena, first, this individual leaderboard here, the top 10 so far, our top 8 are going to compete in the individual final later today that's set for about a 3 p.m. Eastern start time. What stood out to you about our first round of competition today?
Well, honestly, a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of good individual shooters. I feel like TCU has always done a good job about not cracking under pressure on the day of, which, I mean, that's why they're such a successful program. But individually, I feel like Stephanie Grunso is a very impressive shooter because throughout her whole years as a college athlete, she has been extremely consistent. Katie Zahn, I think, is just incredible because she is so young. She's only a sophomore. To put up a 590 and only drop 10 points in small bore is impressive. And then again, like Sara Karasova, she's interesting because she's not necessarily the top shooter of Alaska. So her putting up that score, which is well above her average, is very interesting to see.
Absolutely so. And then from Kentucky, 2 competitors just outside the top 4. Braden Pizer shot a 589 in the earlier session, and Sofia Ciccarello of Italy shot a 588. It's possible that those high 580 scores could be good enough to get into a final. We're going to learn that soon, but man, it really seems like 590 is going to be the bare minimum to get into that championship round.
Yes, it's incredible. I mean, if we look at the 8th place right now, I believe is a 587, which is a high 90, and so I think we're going to have to see some really good scores if you want to make it to the final, so it'll be very interesting.
We'll tell you about the team leaderboard here in just a moment, but first to quickly reset, a 3x20 small bore relay is underway, the second of the day. 2 competitors from each of our 8 qualifying schools, along with 4 individual qualifiers. Those qualifiers are from Ohio State, Derek Kaiser and Paige Hollowell; from Memphis, Gabriella Zeich; and from the Citadel, James Hart IV. So each of these athletes will shoot 20 shots from the kneeling position. That's how we begin, followed by a period of sighters, and then 20 shots in the prone position, then more sighters, followed by 20 more shots from standing to complete our 3x20 small bore relay. And we're taking a look at live targets and scores now. We are underway. 2 competitors from Navy, 2 from Alaska Fairbanks, 2 from Air Force, 2 from West Virginia, and we will continue to spotlight the Mountaineers, who currently trail TCU in the team leaderboards, but 2 very, very able shooters are up at the line here for West Virginia. Matt Sanchez, the senior from Tampa, Florida, is top 5 in the nation with a 589.8 average on the season, followed by Mary Tucker, the 5th-year transfer from Kentucky, who's a 2-time overall individual NCAA national champion. She swept small bore and air rifle in 2021. Did not win championships last year in her first year at West Virginia. She's looking to correct the record there in this, her final season with WVU. Right now looking at Alaska Fairbanks, and speaking of Mountaineers, here's another one standing up now with a West Virginia connection, Akihito Shimizu, a native of Japan who shot previously for West Virginia 3 seasons at WVU, now shooting for Alaska Fairbanks in this national championship, along with Marina Gonzalez Mato from Spain for the Nooks.
Yeah, really interesting. Will Ante, coach of Alaska, actually recruited a lot of international shooters, which I believe in the past has not been the case, that they had that many international recruits. But he's been doing a really good job at, getting a good mix of different shooters, and the team has been doing really well. They won the championships last year, so we will be interested to see what they will do this year.
Here's a look at the 2 competitors for Kentucky in this second small bore relay. Emmy Sellers and Allison Bisler. Sellers averages 584 in small bore this season. Bisler just a tick below 580. She was a counter at last year's national championships as the Wildcats placed 3rd. Kentucky, the program that's won 3 of the last 5 national titles. But right now, the Wildcats currently 3rd place in the team standings. We'll break that down for you here. Team leaderboard, TCU in the lead through 1 small bore relay, 1765, including those 2 scores of 590 or higher from Zahn and Grunso. West Virginia in 2nd place after posting scores in the mid-580s. And then Kentucky 3rd at 1754. Now, of course, there's still a whole lot more to be said and done in this national championship. Each team has the ability to drop the lowest score in each concentration, so that means that 4 small bore scores and 4 air rifle scores tomorrow will count for the team national championship. So right now it's an 8-point lead for TCU. Verena, is that already insurmountable? It's a lot can change in the amount of competition we have left.
Absolutely, and that's why it's just so interesting, because there's a lot of strategy and a lot of momentum that goes in it, because we might have some very consistent shooters that put medium good scores on the board, and then we might have other shooters that are less consistent but they have insane scores. and if they have a good day, it can change the whole thing. And even though we have had 3 shooters so far, so for each team now we add the next 2. And out of those 5, like you said, 1 will be dropped. So with that being dropped and really with 2 shooters still shooting, we have no idea what's going to happen. And just on a bigger scale, like we still have air guns. So there's, we really can't tell so far what's going to happen.
Looking at 2 shooters from TCU here in our second small bore relay. On the left is Jean Haverhill, a grad student from Coopersburg, Pennsylvania. Previously shot for Akron, is a grad transfer to join TCU, a program that most recently won the national title as a team back in 2019. And on her right is Nicole Hogan, a sophomore from Montgomery, Texas. Her season high is a 5.92 in small bore, also a career high. Right now, Haverhill moving rapidly. She's through 12 shots with a 117.
Yeah, that's some really fast shooting. Another thing for everybody kind of tuning in or might not be too familiar with the sport, additionally to the 2 shooters for each team, we will have our individual qualifiers that shoot in the second relay, which means that for all the shooters that their team did not qualify for the NCAAs, they get the chance to actually qualify for them individually. And while they might not win the team championships, they actually get a shot at winning the individual championships. We'll be very interested to see if they can take a shot at that. And
in fact, we're looking at 2 of those individual qualifiers right now. At the top of your screen is Paige Hollowell from Ohio State and James Hart IV of the Citadel. Hollowell, one of several Buckeyes to qualify individually. Derek Kaiser is also shooting in this small bore relay. He's one of 2 athletes who's qualified individually in both concentrations, small bore and air gun. Hollowell, to qualify for the NCAA National Championships, shot a 5.89 in small bore at qualifiers last month. That was 1 point shy of matching her career high of 5.90, which the junior from King George, Virginia set back in the fall season in a meet against Murray State in November. Looking now at shooters from Nebraska, the 8th seed in our national championship competition. On the left is Charlie Mick, the freshman from Nunn, Colorado, a former silver medalist in the Colorado State Junior Olympics in air rifle. And to her right is the sophomore from Norway, Camilla Johannesson. Mick is moving really quickly through her kneeling shots. 2 more to go. She's at a 173 through 18 competition shots. Meanwhile, Johannesson, 93 is her score through the first 10 shots from the kneeling position.
Yeah, Charlie Mick really incredibly fast. I mean, she's about to finish her 20 shots, which means that she takes about 30 seconds per shot. So that is quite fast.
And again, Verena, the strategy differs for each competitor during these small bore relays where you have essentially unlimited time for sighters. If you move quickly through kneeling, then you can maybe pace yourself later on. We saw some athletes in our first relay take right up to the final minute to complete the relay, while others finished with about half an hour to go.
Absolutely, and I feel like if you are a fast shooter, you don't waste a thought on whether you should, do this or that, really. If you can be fast, you should be fast. A shooter like me, who was slow as hell, was really struggling to make it in time. And so for me, it was really about strategizing, where can I shave off a few minutes, how can I train and practice to be faster. So that's, if you are a slow shooter, that's where you need to be really strategic about it.
Verena Zeisberger, 45 career appearances for West Virginia University, 8-time All-GARC honoree. Sometimes it pays to be slow, I guess you could say.
Slow and steady is
That's
what
right.
I always say.
That's right. Delighted to have you along with us for the NCAA Rifle Championship live from Morgantown, West Virginia. Second time West Virginia has hosted this championship event. First time was back in 2019. Mountaineers finished as the runner-up on their home court that year.
That was actually a little heartbreaking. I believe we were the favorite to win the NCAA championships, and then we were runner-up after TCU. So that was a big loss that day for us. So we'll see if we can reverse history a little bit today.
Looking at Lauren Hurley of Air Force and Matt Sanchez of West Virginia. Again, right now the Mountaineers, through one small bore relay, trail TCU as a team by 8 points. But Sanchez and Tucker, both at the line, terrific small bore shooters for West Virginia. Tucker, of course, won silver at the Tokyo Olympics. That was an air rifle, but she is well decorated in both concentrations, has shot essentially all over the globe in her incredible young career. Meanwhile, Sanchez is number 4 in the nation in small bore average this season, just 0.2 of a point shy of a 590 average. His career high is a 593 set earlier this year in January against Navy and Akron.
Yeah, and just a little bit of a background about Mary. Again, like you said, she's an incredible all-around shooter. And she's really an exception because she actually qualified for the Olympics only 3 years, I believe, after starting the sport, which you don't see that anywhere else.
I didn't know that. That is extremely impressive.
I did not know that until she was my teammate, and I could not believe my ears when she told me that. So she's an absolute exception all around. So I'm really excited to see what she's going to do today.
Man, sometimes you just have a gift, right?
Sometimes,
like,
yeah.
Goodness.
And it's just people stand around her and they're like, how do you do it? You just make it look so easy. She probably doesn't know why we're having such a hard time to do what she does.
Let's get a quick score check here on Tucker since we're talking about her. Through 14 shots, a 138 as we take a look at live targets once again. So that means almost all 10. She's had 2 9s so far through her first 14 kneeling shots. Meanwhile, Sanchez for West Virginia, same story for him. 14 10s, make that 15 10s, and 2 9s through his first 17 competition shots.
Yeah, and I believe usually they're actually both very quick shooters, so it seems that they're really taking their time with kneeling, maybe being a little cautious or just trying to really focus in on what they're doing, but that's it's very interesting to see.
Meanwhile, speaking of quick shooters, Clarissa Leyland has just concluded the kneeling portion of the relay with a 194. Derek Kaiser of Ohio State, the same score through 20 kneeling shots. Kaiser, one of 3 individual qualifiers from Ohio State. What a unique story he is, too. A West Virginia native from Vienna, West Virginia. He's another one who's got some West Virginia University ties, although not directly to the rifle program. I'll tell you more about him in just a little bit. In fact, there he is, Kaiser, getting situated to move into his prone sighters. Got to talk with him a little bit last night at the NCAA Rifle Banquet, where it's so unique. Verena, did you get to take part in one back in your day as a shooter? I mean, it's fun because the athletes all know each other, but like there's also this sense of competition, right? It's like, hey, I want to beat you tomorrow, and so sometimes there's a little bit of mingling, but yeah, maybe it just stays within the team. But anyway, Kaiser, Vienna, West Virginia native. He's a senior for Ohio State, and if you're familiar with the geography of the Mountain State, Vienna is essentially on the Ohio River near Parkersburg, and so while, yes, he is a West Virginia native, Columbus is really the closest big city to his hometown, and I would guess that a drive to Columbus, Ohio is about the same distance, maybe even shorter than it is to here in Morgantown, right on the Mason-Dixon line, where West Virginia University is located. Kaiser said he's thrilled to have so much of his family in attendance today. His dad, Steve, and his mom, Angela, will be here inside the Coliseum to watch him compete today in small bore and tomorrow in air rifle. All three of his siblings went to West Virginia University for their higher education. And you know what he told me, Verena? And I'm just wondering if you can help me make sense of this, because I've never shot rifle. I don't understand what he's trying to say. Maybe you can tell me. He says that he likes both disciplines, small bore and air rifle. He thinks of small bore more as an art and air rifle more as a science, because it's just 60 shots the same way. Can you help me make sense of that? Like, does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, that is actually really funny. If I'm picking up on this right, this is something that a lot of people in the world of rifles say, and not to be, to throw words around that I shouldn't say, but a lot of people say that if you're a good air rifle shooter, you're kind of an idiot, because you only do that. You do the same thing over and over and over again. And so really what you have to be able to do is just do the same thing like an idiot, as people say. But small bore, you have different positions. There's a little more nuance to it. And so that's why I think why he said, small bore is an art, which really it is. But I believe there's art to air rifle too, because the margin for error, you're not allowed to shoot a 9, basically. I mean, more and more people shoot 600, so you cannot call those people idiots. It's absolutely amazing what they do. I personally have never shot a 600, so but I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thanks for explaining that to me, because I was quite lost, and I think he knew that he had lost me when he started to talk about small bore as an art. But I guess I can get it. So Kaiser, we'll keep an eye on him today. He's coming off of 589 in small bore in his qualifier a couple of weeks ago. Looking now at Alaska Fairbanks, Gonzalez Mato and Shimizu.
Both internationals next to each other.
Neat story, Shimizu, we mentioned him. Transfer from West Virginia. He's an art major at Alaska Fairbanks. Back in 2021, he placed 9th in air rifle in the NCAA championships, just missing out on a berth in the final by the slimmest of margins.
Yeah, and to talk about his story, at WU, he was always a very consistent shooter. So we should definitely look out for him, because he has been consistent throughout his, now 5 years.
Our coverage of the National Rifle Championships continues from Morgantown, West Virginia, inside the WVU Coliseum. Our coverage of our second small bore relay will continue after this short break. Stay with us. Live coverage of the NCAA Rifle Championships continuing from the WVU Coliseum in Morgantown, West Virginia. You're looking live at Mary Tucker, West Virginia's top small bore shooter, and on average the top small bore shooter in the nation, who just posted a 197 through her first 20 shots. So she's completed the kneeling portion of the relay and will move on to start sighting her prone shots here shortly after her conversation with West Virginia head coach John Hammond and assistant coach J.P. Lucas. Her teammate Matt Sanchez one-upped her, just posted a 198 as he gets into his prone sighters. And so this is huge for West Virginia, isn't it, Verena? A team that is, after one relay, trailed TCU by 8 points, posting scores of 585, 585, and 587 in the first small bore relay. This is a really strong start from two competitors that you knew were capable of posting a big number.
Absolutely. I mean, they're both very consistent, and I think that they can do great things with prone and standing as well. So I'm not too worried, and I'm actually really happy with what they've put up on the scoreboard so far, and we will see what's to come with those two.
Meanwhile, an update on some other scores. We were talking about Akihito Shimizu, the former Mountaineer and current Nook for Alaska Fairbanks. He completed his kneeling series with a 191. For Air Force, Penina D'Souza and Lauren Hurley are both through their kneeling shots. D'Souza a 193, Hurley a 194. For TCU, Jean Haverhill and Nicole Hogan, 192 and 196 respectively through their 20 kneeling shots. And just recently concluding the kneeling series, Emmy Sellers and Allison Bisler of Kentucky, both of them scoring 194 apiece.
And if I just may explain again to anybody who just chimed in or who's not familiar with the sport, if you look at the scorecards, if you have it pulled up there, you will see that there are gray triangles in the target, so on the right top. And this means that athletes are sighting into whatever position that they're in. So for now, we have a lot of people in prone. But before they hit the match button, they will sign in to get their rifles basically signed in and to get into their positions, to figure out their technique. And they will do that until they're ready, which is when they push the match button.
Taking a look at more live targets now. Individual qualifiers. We mentioned Derek Kaiser earlier. He completed his kneeling series with a 194. Gabriella Zeich of Memphis, a 195. James Hart of the Citadel, 192. And it looks like Paige Hollowell has already begun her prone shots. She had a 189 through the kneeling series. Again, 20 kneeling shots into 20 prone shots into 20 standing shots to complete our 3x20 small bore relay with opportunities for sighters in between. So, Verena, you explained it earlier this morning when we went through the first small bore series, but tell me the process again. What are these athletes doing as they sight in, moving from the kneeling position to prone?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that go into the moving over part between positions, and that is, first of all, we're switching positions, which means that we actually have different settings on the gun. So that might be a different butt plate, maybe a riser on with your sights. So they are switching over a lot of things technically, like on the gun. They're changing a lot of things. Then they get into position, which is when they really just settle into their position. They figure out, their process for that position. And the last part of that is also that your rifle will not be sighted in, which if you see on the scorecard that, somebody might just, the whole group is very low, that means that they're kind of sighting in and they're clicking their sights to move them up until they're in the center of the target, which as soon as they kind of are sighted into the center of the target and they have their technique figured out and they feel ready, that's when they press start.
These are Nebraska's shooters in this second relay, Charlie Mick and Camilla Johannesson. Both of them, Johannesson is sighting her prone shots, but Mick has just fired her first two competitive shots from this position, a 9-8 followed by a 10-7. Remember, integer scoring is in play here for the small bore relays, and again with the relays tomorrow for air rifle. Decimal scoring will be used in the championship rounds for the individual qualifiers in the finals. Reminder that our small bore final is set for today at about 3 p.m. Eastern time, and it looks like a 590 might be what's required to enter that championship round. Quick recap: Karsova of Fairbanks with a 593, Grunso of TCU a 592, Ossie of Nebraska a 591, and Zahn of TCU a 590. Those were the top scores in the first small bore relay this morning. It's very likely that that is going to be 590 is going to be the number that's required, or maybe 589 to get into that final. Still a lot more shooting to go, though, before we can determine our 8 finalists for the individual small bore national championship.
And it's interesting to see, like, if you look at how our two, I mean, we have the top 2 teams being TCU and WU so far. And if you look at the 4 shooters for both teams, we have Matt Sanchez and Mary Tucker that did really well in kneeling. And then Nicole Hogan and Jean Haverhill they both dropped some points in kneeling, which kind of, it changes the whole game. And of course we have to wait for prone and for standing, but it just shows you that with one position and a few shots, really the whole scoreboard can absolutely change.
On to shooters from Mississippi. The two participants for Ole Miss in this second relay, Katie Tedeschi and Emma Pereira. Tedeschi a 195. She's sighting prone now. Really solid through the kneeling portion. Meanwhile, Pereira has already shot half of her shots in prone. 9 10s and 1 9 through her first 10 competitive shots prone, bringing her total tally to 293 through 30.
And again, really good recovery for her. She started out with a 9, and then, you know, she just focused, and whatever she had to do, she did, and she hasn't shot a 9 until now.
And she just shot a 10-8, Pereira did. She seems to be locked in now.
Yes, she regained her focus.
The 10 spot on the target, roughly 10 millimeters, 10.4 millimeters. If you've got a nickel in your pocket, it's half the size of that nickel. That's what these student athletes are trying to hit with each of their 60 small board shots. Okay, here's another look at live targets. For West Virginia, Sanchez and Tucker getting ready to fire their competitive prone shots. In fact, there is the first one from Sanchez, a 10. He had a 198 through the kneeling portion. For Kentucky, Sellers and Bissler both still sighting their prone shots. What about Clarissa Leyland for Navy? Top line on your screen now. Just fired a 10 in her first prone shot. She was sitting at a 194 through her first 20. And then Isabella Baldwin just now wrapping up with her 20th kneeling shot at a 188. Meanwhile, for TCU on the third line on your screen, Hogan continuing to work rapidly, nearly through her first 10 prone shots. And there's a look at Jean Haverhill, top of your screen, and Nicole Hogan, the sophomore, in the middle of your screen, above Matt Sanchez. I'm super curious, Verena, did you bedazzle your uniform?
I actually never did. We never had somebody on the team. I was about to tell the spectators, if you ever want to look for Mary, look for the bedazzle. She's actually the first one on the team to do that. I thought it was a cool idea. Like, I really like it. It looks great, the sparkle and the lights, and everybody recognizes her. So yeah. I thought it's a great move. I've never seen anybody else do that. So good idea.
Yeah, how about that? Mary Tucker with the bedazzled accents. And I think, does it say Mary? Is that bedazzled too, where it says her name? I can't really tell.
I believe it's only the 2 stripes from what I remember. Okay. But now there I see a little sparkle there with Mary. So maybe she added up, she amped up her game. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, that's just outstanding. Outstanding. Tucker into her competitive prone shots. 3 fired so far, a 10, a 9, and a 10 to bring her to 226. Meanwhile, her partner, Matt Sanchez, up to a 255 score through 26 total competitive shots.
Yes, and he's getting back into position now. If you saw him take a break, get out of position, you might not believe it, but actually in rifle, if you're shooting slings especially, I mean, there comes pain with every position, but for prone, we definitely have a lot of tension on our arms, the arm that the gun is sitting on. And so it is connected to a sling, and it kind of pulls on your shoulder. It's very, very tight. And so a lot of times you will see those athletes get out of position to just kind of relieve the pain and also to reset and everything.
Sanchez, by the way, was the GARC Shooter of the Year and Senior of the Year. West Virginia won the Great American Rifle Conference Championship, 16th GARC team title for the Mountaineers, scoring an NCAA record 74-59 aggregate score. Sanchez, by the way, won the Smallbore individual championship, and Tucker finished as the runner-up in the GARC.
Yes, there were a lot of Mountaineers in those finals. GARC was definitely dominated by West Virginia, which was very impressive to see. The past couple of years, well, last year we did win it, but there was a time where we were struggling at GARCs a little bit, and it was just nice to see that they were absolutely dominating the conference championships this year.
Mountaineers put 5 individuals in the small bore final at GARCs, 4 in the air rifle final. Had 5 of the 10 overall top scores, really 5 of the 7 overall top scores, as Sanchez placed 7th with an 11.86. Looking at 2 of our individual small bore shooters, James Hart of the Citadel and Paige Hollowell of Ohio State. Hart just finished up his 20th prone shot, and it looks like Hollowell did as well. Hart a 391 through his first 40 attempts. Hollowell a 387 total score at the same stage.
And again, you can see how athletes on the screen right now are changing over. So you can see her move the sights. So she's putting on the sights first standing and switching everything else over to the standing position.
Now to the other end of our 26-point rifle range here at the Coliseum. This is Derek Kaiser of Ohio State, 394 as he has completed his prone shots and will get ready to sight in from the standing position. And speaking of individual qualifiers, Gabriella Zeich of Memphis, a native of Anchorage, Alaska. Sophomore having a really solid season. She has the best average in small bore of all 4 of the individual qualifiers at a 586.846, which is top 20 in the country. Just last night, Zeich was awarded the NCAA Elite 90 Award for rifle, which goes to the top scholar athlete in the sport. 4.0 grade point average. Absolutely.
It's the top GPA of athletes that got to compete at NCAA. So not every athlete even gets the chance to win it, because you have to qualify for championships in order to be considered.
Was told that it was decided on a tiebreaker, by the way, that there were 2 athletes who had a 4.0, but Zeich won the award by virtue of completing more credits during the school year.
Exactly. I've heard that too a lot, that sometimes it really just comes down to credits. I mean, rifle, we are usually good students, so a lot of the times you will find that we have 4.0s.
I'm sorry, Verena, I can't hear you over how loudly you're patting your back.
I'm just, I gotta talk about my sport a little bit. We're smart. No, I feel like a lot of rifle athletes in general, they do care about the sport, but they're very good students. They usually, they care about their major. They want to excel in other things as well. So it is really nice to see how most athletes are doing really well. And a lot of the times, the Elite 90 award for us actually has to be decided by who takes more credits.
And there is Zeich on your screen. And if you're looking at her right shoulder there, that's the Elite 90 patch. Truly a badge to wear with honor for her today. And throughout the tournament, as she is one of the 2 individuals, along with Derek Kaiser of Ohio State, who will shoot in both disciplines. So she'll be back in tomorrow afternoon's air rifle individual, relays. Reminder that our second day of competition is coming up tomorrow, Saturday, from the WVU Coliseum here in Morgantown, West Virginia. We'll have 2 more air rifle relays, and at that point we'll decide a team champion, and then we'll crown an individual champion in air rifle Saturday to wrap up our 2-day event from the Coliseum. Looking again at the Mountaineers shooters, so an update on Sanchez, who just stood up and walked out of your picture there. He is through 40 shots, with a 393. We look now again at live targets. Mary Tucker for West Virginia is through 13 of her 20 prone shots with a 129. So that would be 12 10s and 1 9. Really solid stuff from the very consistent Mary Tucker.
Yeah, as for Matt, he seems to be talking to the coaches just now and kind of talk about what just happened for him. Maybe he will definitely not be happy with a 195 in prone. For everybody who's maybe not into the sport, prone really is one of the positions where you can't really afford to drop any points. So a lot of the times you will see 200s or 199, 198. A 195, and there we see Sanchez talking to the coaches. A 195, especially for a shooter like him, is something that he kind of needs to make up for as much as he can with standing. So he needs a really solid standing now. So
true that he shot a 198 from the kneeling position, right? And so he ended up losing 3 more points.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and there's always the saying, you know, you can't make up for the points you lost. And while that is true, you definitely kind of want to make up for what you've lost, in the sense that you needed a really outstanding next score for him that is standing. And I mean, I believe that he's a very good standing shooter and he has the potential to make up for it, but it's now really about setting up a good mental space for himself to be able to do that.
Meanwhile, let's check in on scores for TCU, the team that has the team lead through the first small bore relay. Hogan has matched Sanchez with a 393 through her first 40 shots. She's now sighting in her standing shots. Meanwhile, her teammate Haverhill has 4 prone shots to go and a shot of 152 out of a possible 160.
And we're back to Mary Tucker in the picture.
Former Kentucky Wildcat, was the runner-up in the Garks in both concentrations, small bore and air rifle. She shot a 592 at the small bore championships in the Garks, which is not even her season high. 595 is her season high. In air rifle, she shot a 598 at the Gark Championships to get into the individual final, and that matched her season high.
Yeah, and again, like shooting a 595 in small bore is incredible. Usually our small bore scores will be lower than air gun, and a 595 could be mistaken for an air gun score. So the fact that she shot that in, you know, the season high 595, that's really impressive. And we see some people doing holding right now. So this is what you see before they switch over to match. A lot of people like to do holding when they're not wearing their jacket, to kind of find their position, tune into how their body feels, and then they put the jacket on, start sighting in, and start taking some shots. But you see how some people are, you know, changing settings on their gun. Some people are setting up their stand, and so we have to go through a lot of steps for standing to be ready.
So most of our athletes are either wrapping up prone or getting sighted for standing. And so while we have a moment, we're going to step aside for a quick break. You're watching live coverage of the 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships from Morgantown, West Virginia. Stay tuned for more from the Coliseum right after this.
And welcome back for the NCAA Rifle Championships. We're here for the 3-position second relay, and we see that some athletes are actually changing over to standing, as we saw earlier. We still see some people in prone, but we're approaching now our last position out of the 3. While we have some people shooting their sighters and changing over, I actually welcome Raymond Raymond Pryor from WU, who is a performance consultant and actually works with the WU rifle team. And we're just going to talk a little bit about his profession, and I'm just going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Well, as you said, my name is Raymond Pryor.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks.
You might classify me as a sports psychology professional. I've been hanging around and doing some work with the WU rifle team for, oh boy, been a long time. I went to graduate school here. My first year was in 2010, so it's been 13, 14-ish years working with the rifle team. So my job is to help them understand their minds and their brains a little bit, and maybe train it in a way which helps them get a little bit more access to their physical skills, especially on a day like today when there's a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. And so you've said just now you've been working with rifle for a long time. So what do you think are some interesting things about rifle from a sports psychology perspective?
Well, from a sports psychology perspective, in terms of what the challenges are to perform well, kind of first and foremost is that you're doing the same thing and trying to repeat it as well as you can in human body and brain that is naturally has some variability to it, right? Another challenge with this sport is that you're kind of on your own time. In other sports, perhaps like basketball or soccer, like it's somewhat reactive, so you're kind of responding to things that are happening around you. Sometimes you're dictating the pace in the play and being more responsive, but in rifle it is all response. You're all on your own. There's very little reacting, so you're going to have to engage your performance on your own time. It's not going to do it for you, which means confidence plays a significant role. And then the other thing about it is that you're doing the same thing for an extended period of time, so focus matters very much. And the margin for error in this sport is perhaps the smallest of any sports. It's literally the size of a period at the end of a sentence. And so if your focus drifts, or you're multitasking, meaning you're focused on kind of 2 things at the same time, that will disrupt your ability, and it only takes a little bit to be off for a couple shots in a row, and that can add up very fast.
Yes, we just talked earlier about some of the quirks about our sport and how, comparing this to basketball or football where you have the whole season and really every game kind of counts, and that's not really the case with rifle, right? You have your whole season, you could be breaking records, you could be doing really well, but then if you kind of choke the day of, that really doesn't mean too much. So how do you usually help your athletes kind of through pressure like that?
There's a significant component to kind of understanding the challenges and the performance mechanisms in your sport. One of those in rifle, college rifle especially, is that the regular season kind of only counts based on your score. Wins and losses don't really count for anything. So if you're really asking any of these athletes here, you could lose every single match the entire year and only win one. Which one would it be? It's this one, because you could lose every single match the entire season, qualify. If you win this match, you're still a national champion with a drastically losing record, right? So there's a lot of pressure, particularly for teams like TCU, Kentucky, and WVU this year. WVU's coming in undefeated. And if they don't win this match, it will feel like a bit of a letdown, even though it was a great season. So there is an emphasis on finishing strong because, quite frankly, that's the one that matters most. And that can be challenging because it can be very easy to start adding self-imposed pressure at a time when it would be least valuable. And so as this team and any other teams are getting ready for this match, it's a lot about understanding that is the situation, the competitive pressure. It's real. Trying to sweep it under the rug is probably not the most valuable strategy. And kind of owning that's the situation, and then answering the question, how do you want to handle it anyway? And then what does that look like for you? So there's a little bit of digging into how you would navigate that pressure, but trying to sweep it under the rug and pretend that this match is just like any other is probably not going to fly once literally the clock starts and score counts.
Absolutely. I mean, lying to yourself doesn't usually work too well, and I bet there's some added pressure today since we were runner-ups 2019 when we hosted last time. So I believe that, there might be some added pressure for these athletes and for John and for everybody. So
there's certainly some pressure to be said about trying to shoot a national championship match at home. You have your home crowd. You would want to shoot well for them. You want to share it. This team is a big part of this community, and they feel that community around them, and they would love to share a national championship with University. WU has a really prominent athletic department, some really good teams, but this program is the only one with a national championship. And they would love to share number 20 with them, especially at home. That would be really sweet. But you can only get there when you actually get there. There's a whole match that you've got to shoot and compete in first. And so the key is, can I be focused on what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and let time play out on its time, not my time, so you can hopefully get the outcome that you want.
Exactly, taking it step by step. So as a final question to you, what are your thoughts so far about the results and about how things are going?
Statistically, if you look at this match, everybody's usually shoots below their average. Not everybody, but most people shoot below their average because, again, it is a very challenging match to shoot. You're going to be more nervous. Some people are going to be more anxious, and it's just a difficult couple of days. So as things are right now, it's pretty wide open at the top. It looks like WVU and TCU are kind of creating a little bit of separation, but they're a little bit neck and neck. And so as we're getting ready for standing here, as you know, having shot this match and shot pretty high level in this sport, some good standing can make up for a lot of lost shots early, and it can also take a good match and turn it into a woof match. And so we're going to see here, I imagine that this is going to be a pretty pivotal moment here in this match where you have WVU's got 2 nice scores going, and then TCU's already got a couple on the board, and then you're going to see how their second relays finish here. So my guess is these two teams are going to create a little bit of separation-ish from the group, not totally, but some, and then also going to see who's going into tomorrow with the lead.
Yeah, that sums it up really well. Thank you, Ray, so much for your input.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Verena. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
All right. See you guys.
And we will be turning back to the scores. We see Matt Sanchez right here taking his first few sighting shots after a 198 in kneeling and a 195 in prone. So we will see what he's going to do.
Awesome stuff there, Verena, with Ray Pryor, sports psychologist for West Virginia University. I want to get your thoughts on something that he said in just a moment, but first let's quickly recap some scores. Just about everybody is either sighting standing shots or just finishing up on prone, with the exception of Gonzalez Mato from Alaska Fairbanks, who has just begun to shoot prone shots. Wonder if timing could become an issue for her at some point. Only 37 minutes remaining in this portion of the relay, so she is the one who is farthest behind in terms of shots. Basically everyone else at this point is sighting their standing shots. Derek Kaiser back in his home state of West Virginia, competing for the Buckeyes of Ohio State, posting a 394 through his first 40 shots, a really solid mark for the individual qualifier. Next to him, Gabriela Zyka, 392, also solid. Both of those competitors will compete in the air rifle competition tomorrow as individual qualifiers in both disciplines. We have mentioned West Virginia. Both Mary Tucker and Matt Sanchez still sighting their standing shots. Tucker with a 396. It looks like that is the best score through 40 shots so far, and indeed it is. A couple of other folks who are in that vicinity would be Hogan of TCU at 393. And Clarissa Leyland from Navy, 391. Emma Pereira at 392. That about wraps up the 390s or higher through 40 shots. Don't want to miss on James Hart IV from the Citadel, also with a 391 as he sights in his final 20 competitive shots. Nick Farrell, Verena Zeisberger with you here for the NCAA Rifle Championships. Second small bore relay, 3-position small bore, followed by 2 air rifle relays tomorrow. And of course, we'll have individual championships in both disciplines today and tomorrow. And we invite you to stick with us through our coverage of this exciting national championship competition until the end of the day Saturday. Okay, let's go back to that conversation that you just had with Ray Pryor, West Virginia's sports psychologist. How important is confidence in this sport?
I mean, he just said like it's obviously very important, and I believe like confidence plays a crucial role for every athlete out there. But Raymond has a very distinct definition of confidence and how to go about it. He often talks about stable and unstable confidence, and that it's really more about your relationship with confidence. For example, if you need a good, let's say, kneeling to start off your match well, to feel good about yourself, and to have confidence, that is quite unstable because you cannot truly control how your kneeling is going to play out. There's some unknowns. You can't always control your performance 100%. If you, however, can have a more flexible relationship with your confidence, meaning that no matter how things play out, you can trust that you can accept those outcomes, and you can trust yourself to refocus on the things that matter in that moment and stay present, that is a more stable confidence, and that's really what he preaches and what he tries to teach us.
I was chatting with West Virginia coach John Hammond last night, winner of 6 team national championships at WVU, including 5 in a row from 2013 through 17. And he said, and I think Ray might have echoed this when you spoke with him, that West Virginia's rifle athletes, and really the same can be said for any of the athletes on these qualifying teams, they compete for 365 days for this, right? And everything, if the cards are in your favor on these 2 days, your season was what it should have been. But there are going to be 7 teams that are going to leave here and not win a team national championship. But the margins are so thin in this sport, and there's so much that goes into this 2-day event. Everybody who's here wants to win, and certainly TCU, Kentucky, West Virginia, maybe even Fairbanks, all of those teams have the components to make it happen.
Exactly, and that's the key word right there. Like, all of the top teams have the potential to do it. And so it really comes down to your mental space, your mental game, and that's where someone like Ray Pryor comes in, because this is really important to allow yourself to compete the way you can. And I think accepting that, yes, you might have a great season, but there is a chance that you might walk away with nothing from this day. That's a really important component to allow yourself to compete the way you want to compete.
So we've got Mary Tucker, Matt Sanchez back on your screen. Sanchez on the left, Tucker on the right. They're still sighting in for their final series in this 3x20 relay. Sanchez again a 393 through 40 shots. Tucker a 396 through 40 shots, which leads all competitors in this relay. Over the next 20 shots, once we get back into match shots for each of these competitors, it's really going to become clear who's going to make the cut for that 8-person individual final coming up today at 3 Eastern time here at the Coliseum. So far, it seems like 4 student athletes are right there and ready to punch a ticket. Sarah Karasova of Alaska Fairbanks had a 593 in this morning's first relay. Stephanie Grunso of TCU posted a 592. Cecilia Osi, 591. She's from Nebraska. And then Katie Zahn, 590, also from TCU. Horned Frogs have 2 competitors that are very likely, 2 in the top 4 through that first relay. Very likely that TCU is going to have at least 2 competitors in that individual final coming up later this afternoon. Although Tucker is on pace to be in that vicinity for sure. A 590 or higher, definitely attainable, because we know what Tucker is capable of. Her career high, in fact, is a 597. She shot that twice at the collegiate level.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and her standing is incredible. So, you know, she dropped 4 points so far, but really, I'm personally not too worried. I think she will probably make the final just because her standing is usually really solid, and she probably won't drop too many points here. Okay, so for TCU, Haverhill has just fired her first competitive shot from the standing position, fires a 10.0. Most of our other competitors are still sighting in. For Alaska Fairbanks, Marina Gonzalez-Mato, a native of Spain, is working her way through her 20 prone shots. She now has 3 to go. And so maybe this shows Verena my inexperience in covering rifle. 7 minutes ago I said, wow, it seems like she's behind. Well, now 7 minutes later it seems like she's right on pace now with the rest of the group. Yes, absolutely. I mean, 7 minutes for a fast shooter, that can be a lot of shots, actually. And we only have 20 shots per position, so in 7 minutes, a lot can change. You can basically shoot half of your standing match. So you got to keep a close eye on things for sure.
Emma Pereira of Ole Miss and Charlie Mick of Nebraska have also started firing competitive shots to begin the final portion of this 3x20 relay. Why do athletes, Verena, typically spend more time sighting into the standing position?
I would say because it takes, at least personally, I think it takes a little more time to settle into the position. There's a lot of balance going on, so sometimes people just try to, figure out their balance, hold the gun without a jacket on, and also I think it's a sign of caution because we can drop the most amount of points in this position. It's the riskiest position out of all of them, so I think people really want to make sure that they're making the most out of it, and it is a very challenging position, so you really want to make sure you're ready when you push the match button.
Katie Tedeschi and Emma Pereira on your screen now, both Rebels from Ole Miss. Pereira, 4 standing shots, 3 10s, 1 9 to bring her total to 431. Looks like she's hit 39 10s out of a possible 43. Check that, 44 now through her first portion, or through this portion of the small bore relay. Through the first relay, TCU held an 8-point team lead over West Virginia, 1765 to 1757. Kentucky finished in 3rd after the first small bore relay. Alaska Fairbanks in 4th. Of course, Fairbanks, the reigning national champion, and TCU, last year's national runner-up. There's Gonzalez Mato, who is also now getting ready to sight in from the standing position. 193 kneeling, 196 prone to give her a 389 through 40 shots. Her teammate Akihito Shimizu, formerly a West Virginia Mountaineer, has just fired his first standing shot for a 10.
She's actually the last athlete to move over into standing. We have 27 minutes left in this competition, so she will want to make sure to get it moving along to be able to finish standing strongly.
Looking at the Horned Frogs now, Haverhill and Hogan. Haverhill, a 10 and 2 9s in her first 3 shots from the standing position, bringing her total to 411 out of a possible 430. Haverhill, 4 seasons at Akron before transferring as a grad student to TCU. Really solid in air rifle as a zip, and she's been even better this year with the Horned Frogs, the 11th best air rifle average in the country. And if she shoots her average, she's bound to be in contention for a spot in tomorrow's air rifle final. Hogan's first attempt for a match shot from the standing position is a 9-9, just missing 10.
Yeah, just to cover this again, right now we're doing integer points. Later on we'll move to decimal points. So right now if we shoot a 9-9, that's just too bad because it will be a 9. Later on in the final, a 9-9 is not too bad. Because the difference between a 10-2 or a 9-9 is really not that big. But right now it can be truly devastating when you shoot a 9-9 or even an 8-9 and it just costs you 1 or 2 points and really just by a hair.
We hope you'll stick with us for today's small bore individual final coming up at about 3 Eastern time. And that is when this thing really gets fun, right? Because you got 8 competitors, the best of the best, and they're going to go head-to-head and shoot elimination shots down the stretch through another 60-shot 3x20 series in 3-position small bore. It is going to be a fun championship with so many really talented shooters here at the Coliseum.
Absolutely. I encourage everybody to tune in. The final will be, especially for non-shooters, it'll be the most fun to tune into because there will be a lot more going on. It'll be easier to follow. As you said, there will be an elimination, so it's going to be very, very interesting, and they will move very quickly through all 3 positions. So I encourage everybody to listen to the final.
All right, here's Emma Pereira from Mississippi. She shot an 88 through 9 standing shots. 7 10s, 2 9s to bring her total to a 480 for the relay with 11 shots to go.
And I mean, look at that standing group. It's absolutely beautiful. It's just tight and not like to the side, nothing. It's just a beautiful standing group. So excellent shooting from her part.
Rebels competed against West Virginia at the GARC Championships, qualifying as the 6th seed as a team in their first season under new head coach Rachel Martin, who, by the way, Verena, I have to say, if there was a man or woman best dressed at last night's NCAA rifle banquet, it was by far Coach Martin. Power suit, sparkles, the whole 9. I mean, they should have done a red carpet event, in my personal opinion. Maybe they'll do it next year, but man, spectacular.
Yes, as we mentioned, there should be a best dressed award. That's the one award we're missing for the conference championship banquet and also the NCAA banquet. So, absolutely right.
Perhaps not to overshadow from the Elite 90, which is the important award given out last night to the top scholar athlete out of all of our qualifiers, all 48 of them. All right, here's Derek Kaiser from Ohio State. 3 standing shots, a 10, a 9, and a 10 to bring his total to 423. He could be right there in contention for a spot in the final if he continues on this trajectory. Just posted another 10 with his 4th shot. Next to him is Gabriella Zyke of Memphis, the aforementioned Elite 90 winner, top scholar athlete of the 48 qualifiers. Zyke, 2 10s and a 9 through her first 3 standing shots to bring her total to 421 out of a possible 430 thus far. Meanwhile, West Virginia, Matt Sanchez and Mary Tucker have begun firing their final competitive series. Sanchez with 4 9s and 2 10s through his first 6 standing shots.
We see Matt Sanchez right there. Just now he's struggling a little bit. His start was a little weaker than expected for standing. And you can see on the scoreboard his shots are all a little bit low. And so that's when athletes kind of need to decide, do I click my sights to move my group up, or am I pulling the trigger too low? So like, those are decisions where sometimes it's a little bit tricky to really recognize what the issue is. But it seems that he's figured it out. He followed up with 2 10s. The group is moving up, so he seems to have made the right decision.
Meanwhile, Mary Tucker just above him on your screen. 3 standing shots, 3 10s. She's got the pace here to potentially post the highest small bore score of the tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, she hasn't dropped a single point so far. 4 10s right there. So if she keeps that pace up, she'll be one of the top ones. Absolutely.
Next to the Mountaineers are the TCU Horned Frogs, Haverhill and Hogan. But here's a look at Tucker's group. Former GARC Shooter of the Year last year. National Shooter of the Year honor as well from the CRCA, and of course earning All-America honors. Won silver at the Tokyo Olympics for Team USA in mixed team air rifle. 5 for 5 right on the mark to start her standing series. She's done it before. She's won individual national championships back when she wore a different shade of blue as a Kentucky Wildcat. Two-time overall individual national champion back-to-back in 2021 and 22. Had what you might call a disappointing tournament last year at the national championships hosted at Akron. An opportunity to really correct the record here in her 5th and final year. Native of Sarasota, Florida, looking to go out on top. And if she as an individual goes out on top, that probably is a good sign for West Virginia as a team trying to collect its 20th national title here at the Coliseum. Meanwhile, look at Kentucky. Emmy Sellers and Allison Bisler have both begun firing competitive shots standing. All 10 so far. Sellers threw 1 shot in this position. Bisler threw 2. Second time since 2019 that these national championships have been hosted by West Virginia University at the Coliseum. It's a 26-point rifle range. Technically a mobile range that West Virginia uses across the way at the Shell Building. That's where the Mountaineers host their regular season meets. Enough space and equipment to make it a 30-point range. Only 26 points needed for this national championship. In fact, we used 24 of the 26 points in this morning's Smallbore relay. What's incredible is that just Wednesday night there was a basketball game in this facility. It took roughly 4 to 5 hours. Was talking to some folks from facilities who oversaw the changeover. Basketball game against TCU tipped off at 7 on Wednesday, ended just after 9 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, they had already begun striking all of the basketball equipment and getting things situated for the rifle championships because there were practice sessions yesterday in both disciplines. Took 4 hours, just 4 hours to change over the facility and get it ready for the National Rifle Championships. And what's even more remarkable is that the elevator in the Coliseum shut down in the middle of the night while they were changing things over, so they had to use golf carts to carry big equipment from outside the arena down through the service tunnel back inside to the Coliseum floor to get things ready. I mean, it's been quite the undertaking by the West Virginia University Athletics Facilities Group, about a group of about 20 guys and gals getting the job done overnight Wednesday to get us ready to go for Thursday's practice rounds and, of course, today's opening round at the National Championships.
That is just amazing. And, I mean, that's how you see, like, that's a perfect job of facility management. First of all, like, using the space so well, but also schedule-wise to flip over that quickly. And then those unforeseen little challenges. Like,
yeah, who could predict that the elevator's going to go out?
So you got to be quick on your feet and think quickly and face those challenges. So props to those guys getting this all set up.
Back to Matt Sanchez and Mary Tucker. Sanchez threw 12 shots, a 114 from the standing position. So that's about half 10s, half 9s. Meanwhile, Tucker, this will not shock you, Verena, perfect so far from the standing position.
Yeah, her shooting is mostly just flawless. I think that is a good word to describe it. So it's just incredible with what consistency she just puts up scores that the rest of us can barely believe. Matt Sanchez seems to be struggling a little bit with standing today, but he seems to be working through it, seems to be rejecting shots when he needs to, taking breaks. He's really taking his time here. But yeah, we see some good standing here.
Okay, you've used that term, rejecting shots. Explain that in layman's terms. What does that mean, and what is the process for determining if we're good to go or not?
Yes, so that's a good question. I should have explained that earlier. So when we talk about rejecting shots, that means that we might look through our sights, we're approaching the target, about to take the shot, but we notice that something is off. Either our mental space, our technique, something in our position, something doesn't quite feel right, and that's when we reject a shot. And that means that we just put the gun down, or either you leave it in your, on your palm, or you put it on the stand, and you kind of recheck your position. You do whatever you have to do to come back to what you want to do, which is take a good shot with good technique.
All right, we're going to step aside. 15 minutes of competition remaining in this small bore relay. When we come back, the completion of our second small bore relay live from Morgantown, West Virginia at the WVU Coliseum. You're watching the 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships. Live coverage of the NCAA Rifle Championships continues from Morgantown, West Virginia, inside the WVU Coliseum. Our second three-position small bore relay is nearing a close, and we might be nearing something truly impressive from West Virginia's Mary Tucker. 12 shots in the standing position, all 10s. 120 to go for a 5-16 total score across the relay. Terrific stuff so far from Tucker. Meanwhile, her teammate Matt Sanchez has one more shot to go. If he hits a 10, that would put him at 586. So on one hand, what Tucker is doing is exceptional. But on the other hand, the number that Sanchez is nearing for his total relay score is going to be right next to his teammates from the earlier relay. Gavin Barnick and Molly McGinn both shot 585s. Griffin Lake a 587. So that might make it a little bit difficult because it does appear that 585 is going to be a score drop for West Virginia. We're going to have to get into doing that math a little bit later once this is all finalized. But the Mountaineers are maybe in a difficult position in terms of team scoring at this point.
Yes, absolutely. We're probably going to look at some some scores in the high to mid 80s from West Virginia, and then one score from Mary that's going to be in the 90s, which really is everything's still open. By the way, Matt just there finished with a 585. So depending on air rifle tomorrow, you will have to decide between who we're going to drop. And so far, we actually have 3 585s from WU. So it will all depend on how they do an air gun tomorrow for John Hammond, the head coach, to make that decision of who will be dropped.
So Sanchez's relay is done with a 585. Meanwhile, Tucker continues to dazzle. 14 10s in a row from the standing position. Taking a look at some action from the TCU Horned Frogs. Remember, TCU had the team lead over West Virginia by 8 points after the first three-position small bore relay. Right now, Haverhill for TCU is sitting on a 525 with 5 shots to go. Her teammate Hogan is in a much better spot, 546 with 4 shots to go.
And we just got the 10-minute announcement right there. So we see some people still have about 10 shots left. Some have 5 shots left, which really means that they have about a little bit over a minute per shot, which is not too bad. But as I said earlier, if you're really nervous, if you're going through some struggles, whatever it might be, a minute per shot can feel really, really short. So some people might be, trying to speed it up a little bit. We see from Katie Tedeschi, she just shot an 8, which is rough to come back from. So hopefully she can manage that also with time and pressure and everything that comes into that situation.
Remember, not just time too, but the need to score high in order to get into the individual final. There are going to be some athletes here who are on the looking to go into the high 580s, low 590s. That is apparently going to be good enough to get into the championship round later today. If it's 588, if that's the baseline, that could mean that Sophia Ciccarello from Kentucky and Braden Pizer, also from Kentucky, could sneak in to the championship round. They shot 588 and 589 respectively during the first three-position relay. Tedeschi for Ole Miss still shooting. Pereira has concluded her relay with a 581. Tedeschi has 8 shots to go. This is Charlie Mick for Nebraska. She also just concluded her relay with a 573. Her teammate Johannesson still has 3 shots to go. Back to Kentucky, Emmy Sellers and Allison Bissler on the tail end of their standing shots. Sellers 506, Bissler 510.
And actually, I'm just seeing Emma Pereira going back to her. She just finished her 3x20, and what we see here is really just kind of the pressure that is put on those athletes. She finished with an 8 and a 7 after that, which really cost her 5 points in 2 shots, and that's just really heartbreaking for everybody to watch, but also for her. So that's just how you see that in standing, if there's a lot of pressure on you, with the last few shots, things can just change drastically.
That's such a great point, Verena, because she was on pace, right? She was on pace to be right there around that high 580.
Absolutely.
That could have put her into the championship round.
Absolutely, and with 2 or 3 shots, you can really ruin your chances to either get into the final or to be a counter for your team.
Well, back to Mary Tucker, the former Olympic silver medalist, still dead on. Wow, this is incredible stuff from Tucker.
Yes, really exciting. We're about to see a perfect score in standing from Mary Tucker. She has 2 shots left. If she shoots 2 10s, that is a perfect standing score.
I don't want to say that's unheard of, Verena, but at this level of competition, how tough is it to pull that off?
It is extremely. In my whole career, have never had a perfect score in standing.
Wow.
Some shooters will never get to do this. To do it at NCAAs is just even more impressive. And I don't even know how often she might have done that in her career, but it is exceptional, and it just drastically improves her score. Other people are losing at least 4 to 5 points in standing if they have a good round. She didn't drop a single one, so...
Tucker's carear high in Smallbore at
Another
the collegiate
10,
level
yes.
is a 597. She can't hit that. Her top score would be a 596 if she can hit one more 10. It would also be a season high. One more shot here from Mary Tucker. It could be a history-making shot at the NCAA championships.
She's rejecting the shot, taking another breath, settling in.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. That's
exceptional.
People are clapping. This is insane. A perfect score in standing.
It is terrific from Mary Tucker. A perfect standing series to conclude a 596 score in the 3x20 small bore relay. That is going to be by far the best score of the day in the small bore competition. Tucker locks in a 596. The 2-time overall individual national champion is on the hunt once again. And from a team perspective, Verena, that's huge for West Virginia after posting a trio of 585 scores in the small bore. A couple of student athletes shooting below their averages for the season. Really, everybody but Tucker shot below season averages in the small bore, and yet Tucker with a 596, absolutely exceptional.
That's a big strength of her, that she's extremely consistent and sometimes even more under pressure. And like finishing her last NCAA match, her last small bore match with a perfect standing, that is just the most difficult position to not drop points, is really, really incredible.
Update on Air Force, Penina D'Souza and Lauren Hurley. Hurley has just fired her final standing shot to conclude with a 584, and D'Souza with back-to-back 10s to close out a really solid standing series, a 196 from that position to give her a 584 for the 3-seeded Air Force Falcons. Only a handful of competitors still with shots to go, including one of our individual qualifiers, James Hart IV from the Citadel. He has 2 shots remaining. The 3 other individual qualifiers have wrapped up, led by Gabriella Zeich, a 586, Derek Kaiser, a 584, and Paige Hollowell from Ohio State, 575.
And circling back to a question that you asked earlier about the standings, if we take a look at the 2 top schools right now, West Virginia and TCU, before this relay, we had WVU being the runner-up. But now, after just 2 competitors and each team shooting their shots, we have a different story, because Haverhill and Hogan dropped quite a bit of points compared to their teammates. So that can tell you how just in a matter of 2 competitors, the whole standing kind of can absolutely change.
Yeah, what a very great point, Verena. Hogan, a 582, and Haverhill, a 573. Sanchez and Tucker both with superior scores there. And I mean, Tucker, that's a monster 596 that's just head and shoulders above even Karasova, who dazzled in the first relay for Alaska Fairbanks with that 593. It's incredible. There were some folks during the intermission from West Virginia who were saying, look at this, what is happening? Just listening to some folks, the ushers here in the building, saying, I thought that West Virginia was the favorite to win this thing, trailing by 8 points. Well, this isn't like a football game or a basketball game, right? This is much, much different, and it's going to take even into tomorrow to determine our team championship. It's going to go back and forth.
Absolutely. 8 points in here don't matter right now. It will matter more the closer we get to the end, but right now everything is open, and we have to stay tuned until the end.
Well, the story of the day has become Mary Tucker, a marvelous 3x20 relay, 596. That's the top score of all competitors, and it will put Tucker into the individual final, which is coming up today at about 3 p.m. Eastern time here at the Coliseum. What we're also seeing, too, is that it looks like the bar has dropped. We thought it might be around 590 to get into the small bore individual final. Really, it's going to be more like 588, 587. And so we're going to take a look now at our competitors who are advancing into the championship round. There you have it. Really only 2 from this second small bore relay are advancing to the championship round. Tucker, of course, from West Virginia, and Leah Horvath from Ole Miss. Sorry, she shot in the previous round, so it is only Tucker from this second relay getting into the championship round, as Horvath from Ole Miss, Pizer from UK, and Ciccarello, also of Kentucky, who are making it into the championship round today at 3 p.m. We're going to have an individual competition to determine our individual small board champion. It's going to be an extremely exciting competition, and we hope you'll join us for that. Start time approximately 3 p.m. Eastern time for the individual 8-competitor small bore final. We will talk to you then, 3 o'clock Eastern Time on NCAA.com. Please join us. It's going to be quite the exciting finish to day one of this 2-day national championship. We'll have that live coverage of the individual small bore final, as well as an update on the team leaderboard through day one, coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And our live coverage continues from the WVU Coliseum in Morgantown, West Virginia. She's Verena Zeisberger. I'm Nick Farrell. We're so glad you've joined us, and we hope to see you again at 3 as our live coverage of the NCAA Rifle Championships continues.
Experiences nearly 500,000 NCAA.
Welcome back to Morgantown, West Virginia, inside the WVU Coliseum for the individual small bore finals, day one of our 2-day 2024 NCAA Rifle Championship. Delighted to have you with us as our live coverage of this event continues. It's been an exciting day so far. Nick Farrell here, along with former Mountaineer and All-American shooter Verena Zeisberger. We're excited to bring you what's bound to be a terrific conclusion to the small bore portion of our 2-day national championship event. Let's take a quick look at the team leaderboard before we introduce you to our 8 individuals competing for a gold medal in small bore. West Virginia trailed by 8 after the first of 2 small bore relays, but the Mountaineers, the number 1 seed, now lead TCU by 6 points thanks to an absolutely sensational small bore relay from the marvelous Mary Tucker, who scored a 5.96 to lead all competitors in the qualifying rounds. TCU second and Kentucky third on the team leaderboard. And here's a look at your individual small bore finalists. Tucker, along with Sara Karasova from Alaska Fairbanks. 2 Horned Frogs making the cut in Stephanie Grunso and Katie Zahn. Cecilia Olsey from Nebraska. Leah Horvath from Ole Miss, and 2 Kentucky Wildcats making the final as well. True freshman Braden Pizer, along with sophomore Sophia Ciccarello. So, Verena, it's been a terrific and exciting competition so far, highlighted by that performance by Mary Tucker. Exceptional stuff.
Absolutely. So we saw a very impressive flash score from Mary Tucker, who shot a perfect standing. Very, very impressive. So she led the finalists by that score by quite a bit, I believe. She had the best score in the whole relay, in both relays, by 3 points. So she's definitely the one to look out for. But we have a lot of good competitors in this final. So
absolutely, it could be anyone's championship here in the individual small bore finals. Right now, competitors are in the midst of their 5 minutes of sighting and prep time from the kneeling position. About 15 seconds to go in this sighting period. We'll have 3 5-shot series from the kneeling position, followed by 3 5-shot series in prone. Then we'll stand up for 3 5-shot series to conclude our championship. Here's Earl Litherland, the Chief Range Officer for the National Championships. The other 3 range officers, Gary Trisdale, Lisa Kelly, and Ronald Morales.
For your first competition series, load.
And the cue from Litherland to begin the first of 3 5-shot series from the kneeling position. As we mentioned, 3 5-shot series kneeling, 3 by 5 prone. Then really it's 2x5 standing, and then we get into the elimination shots. Once we've taken 35 total shots, the 2 lowest scorers will be eliminated. That will leave us with 6 competitors with 5 shots to go, and that's when it really gets exciting.
Absolutely. So after the last 2 series, which are the 2 5-shot series in standing, we will, so to speak, get rid of 2, the lowest 2 scores, and after that we will lose 1 athlete for every shot. So it'll be a fast elimination and really interesting for the spectators because it's going to be tight with the decimal scores here. Very interesting.
That's a great point, Verena, too. If you were with us earlier today, you know that we were keeping track in integer scoring. So a 9.1, 9.5, 9.7 is all a 9. Now the decimal point does count as we're looking at Cecilia Aussie of Nebraska and Katie Zahn of TCU. Aussie threw 3 shots with 2 10s, 110.7, 110.2 to put her at 30.1 through 3. Zahn right there with a great 10.4. Remember that an X is a center. Those could come into play in the event of a tiebreaker at some point.
Yeah, so X's do play a huge role for tiebreakers in the relays that we had earlier today. And for the final, in a case of a tie, we will actually have a tie-breaking shot that is only between 2 athletes, and they will shoot a standing shot in 50 seconds, after which they will be eliminated, or one of them will be.
Looking at Sarah Karasova from Alaska Fairbanks on the left of your screen. She shot the top score in the first small bore relay, a 5.93. Surpassed only by Mary Tucker, who shot a season high for West Virginia with a 5.96. Karasova also tied her season high with that 5.93. Right now, through 5 shots, Karasova 49.2. To her right is Leah Horvath of Ole Miss. And our final competitors are Ciccarello and Grunso, Kentucky and TCU.
After our first 5-shot kneeling series, in first place, Stephanie Grunso from TCU with a score of 51.7. Second place, Brayden Kaiser from Kentucky at
51.6. And in third place, Sophia Ciccarello from Kentucky at 51.3.
Just heard public address announcer Bill Nevin.
For your next competition series,
And another command from Earl Litherland. Bill Nevin reading out the top scorers so far. To recap, Stephanie Grunso in first, Brayden Kaiser of Kentucky in second, and his Wildcat teammate Sophia Ciccarello, native of Italy, in third through 5 shots.
And we see Mary Tucker here on the screen. And what is very interesting to note here is that she unfortunately started with an 8, her very first shot, which is hard to recover from, especially in decimal. And it's interesting that, you know, she led the relay by far, shot an amazing score, but that score really doesn't count for the final. So it could be anybody's win here at this point, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see that sometimes the leader from the relay will not be the leader in the final.
In fact, the 2 top scorers from the relay, Tucker and Karasova of Alaska Fairbanks, both in last at this point in our championship relay. Tucker in 8th, 59.1. Karasova just 1/10 of a point ahead of her, 59.2. Our leader remains TCU's Stephanie Grunso, 61.7. And right next to her on her left is Ciccarello. 1/10 of a point separating those two, as well as Brayden Kaiser, who has just tied Grunso for the lead at 61.7.
Yeah, shooting a final like this is just a completely different story than the relay. It's really about speed, being, being present in the moment and really focusing on what you're doing, because you don't have the time to take a second to refocus. So, yeah, we're going to see some different scores maybe.
Looking at Tucker for West Virginia and Pizer for Kentucky. Pizer, a tremendous freshman who has really come on strong as of late. Shot above his average, well above it today to qualify for the final. He also qualified for the final at the GARC Championships in both small bore and air rifle back in February. Right now, he has the lead.
Tucker finishing with a strong 10.9 right there.
Check that. Pizer is
After our second 5-shot yielding series, we have a three-way tie for first place.
The shooters with 102.9 points. Katie Zahn from TCU, Sophia Ciccarello from Kentucky, and Stephanie Grunso from TCU.
Deadlocked at the top of the leaderboard now, 2 Horned Frogs and 1 Kentucky Wildcat, all tied at 102.9 as we enter the final portion of the kneeling series. 5 more shots from this position for each finalist.
Very nice 10.6 from Horvath.
Looking at Karasova on your left and Horvath on your right. Horvath just posted a 10-3, followed that up with a 10-2. Horvath, the senior from Hungary, the only rebel to reach the final. Back when she was a freshman in 2021, she took 3rd place at the NCAA championships in both small bore and air rifle.
And she has a beautiful kneeling series right there. Those 5 shots is what you want to see.
Needs one more strong one to complete a great group.
This could definitely catapult her up a little bit.
Finishes with a 9-8. Meanwhile, Karasova posting 10+ all 5 of her shots.
Yeah, 52.0 that Horvath just shot is about a 10.4 average for all shots, which is really good in kneeling. So she might move up a little bit.
Still one more shot to go for Aussie of Nebraska, Zahn of TCU, and Tucker of West Virginia, as well as Kentucky's Braden Pizer. Pizer posts a 9-9 to finish this 5-shot series with a 50.7. And that'll do it from the kneeling position. Here's an updated score look.
7-minute changeover and sighting time, start.
So we'll begin sighting from prone as we look at the leaderboard. Grunso of TCU in the lead by a good margin here, a point ahead of 2nd place Sophia Ciccarello of Kentucky, and about a 1.5 in front of Horvath from Ole Miss. Meanwhile, Tucker, who dazzled in the qualifying round for this final with a 5.96, remains in last place.
Yes, it'll be really interesting to see what happens, but we have 3 positions, and Mary is a very strong standing shooter, so we really don't know what happens, because in standing, that's where big mistakes might happen under pressure. So we'll see if she can stick it out, and if somebody else makes a little bit of a mistake, maybe shoots a bad 9 or an 8, it might change the scoreboard by quite a bit.
In 7th place, Sarah Karasova from Alaska.
So we've begun the 7-minute changeover period to prone that includes sighting time. So this is a little bit different than what we experienced earlier in the small bore relays, because in those relays, the student athletes really could work at any pace to make the transition from kneeling to prone and then from prone to standing. Does it become more difficult when there is a set time to make this changeover?
Absolutely. So the 7 minutes that we do get is really not that much, because in that time, as you see, they're putting the prone mats down, they're changing over, they're changing the settings on their guns, they're doing all sorts of things, and they need to get into position and sight in. So there's a lot of tasks that need to be done and done well and correctly within those 7 minutes. And you might laugh, but sometimes it happens that, athletes forget to put on the right sighters or the right sights, or they forget to change a setting on their gun. So you have to be very quickly and very precise and accurate with what you do, and that's why we train a lot those finals and changeovers.
What happens if you get up there, you're out of sighting time, and you realize, I don't have this lined up, and I'm not really ready to go?
Well, if that were to happen, you are in big trouble. There is no painting that better than it really is. So you would, depending on what it is, you would have to get up really quickly, change whatever you need to change, get back down, but you really aren't giving any extra time. So you really need to be fast. You might have to really just, shoot the shots down the range to, be able to do everything in time, because it's better to not have great shots than just to miss a shot and just shoot 4 shots instead of 5. That's something that you really want to avoid.
Well, it's worth noting that not only is the changeover and sighters period timed, but so is each of the 5-shot series. From prone, each 5-shot series must be completed in 150 seconds each, so roughly 2.5 minutes. The standing series, you do get more time.
Yes.
It's up to about 4 minutes, 250 seconds for standing. So it is a little bit different, but it's not quite like the relays where you have 75 minutes to shoot all 60 of your shots from every position, and you can take as much time as you'd like.
Absolutely, and that's where you could technically make up. Let's say I'm a fast standing shooter. I can take my time with kneeling and prone. Here, that's really not possible. We have 40 seconds per shot in kneeling, 30 seconds per shot in prone, which, to me as a shooter, that was really, really fast. And then 50 seconds for standing. And so there's no rejecting shots or taking another breath or, taking your time with a certain position. It's really just go, go, go. So some shooters that are very solid shooters in the relay struggle a lot with the final.
Just under 3 minutes of sighting time remaining as we make the transition to prone for 3 5-shot series here in our championship competition, the small bore finals of the 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships. Nick Farrell here along with Verena Zeisberger, the former West Virginia Mountaineer and All-American shooter. Quick recap of the leaderboard for this individual small bore final. Grunso of TCU in first. 155.9 is her score. Ciccarello of Kentucky, 154.8. That's second best on the leaderboard. And right behind her on her heels is Horvath of Ole Miss with a 154.4. Everyone else shooting in the vicinity of 153 or lower at this point. We're going to step aside for a quick break. The continuation. Back inside the WVU Coliseum here in Morgantown, West Virginia. We're under a minute away from the resumption of competition in our small bore individual final. Stephanie Grunso, the grad student from TCU, is in the lead.
30 seconds.
She was the silver medalist at the Patriot Rifle Conference small bore individual championship last month. And she is in contention to earn TCU's first individual small bore title since 2019. Still a lot of work to go. 15 shots prone, 10 shots standing, and then we get into the 5 standing elimination shots. Nick Farrell, Verena Zeisberger here with you as our live coverage of the NCAA Rifle Championships continues. Earl Litherland, the chief range officer here inside the Coliseum, gives the command to load for the first of 3 5-shot series prone.
Start.
And again, our athletes have 150 seconds for the 5 shots, which equates to about 30 seconds per shot. So pretty quick pace here.
On the left of your screen, Sarah Karasova of Alaska Fairbanks. On the right, Leah Horvath of Ole Miss. Round of applause there. Some big scores are posted to open this series. Ciccarello in second place with a 10.7x. Grunso answers that after a 10.5, follows it up with a 10.7. Mary Tucker of West Virginia has crawled out of last place after shooting a 10.9, followed by a 10.6. Tucker fell behind right away. A couple of low scores in her first kneeling series. Trying to claw her way back into this individual final.
Yes, for prone, there shouldn't be any drastic changes, but you can definitely make up a few points depending on how everybody else does. So if she continues her series as she is right now, she actually might crawl up a few steps. So and from there on, it's standing where a lot of things can happen. So Grunzo also has a really good series here. Almost, if she shoots a 10.7 right now, she would have 35.0, which is a 10.6 average.
You mentioned Grunso was the silver medalist at the Patriot Rifle Championships, and there it is, 10.7. Right on cue. It's as if you've got a crystal ball.
I called it, absolutely.
Wow, that's an exceptional series from Grunso, who was bested by Rachel Charles at the Patriot Rifle Conference Championships. Charles of Alaska Fairbanks did not qualify for the individual final after shooting a 5.79.
And we can see right now Mary Tucker shot an unbelievable series of 53.1, and she is in 4th place right now.
Oh, that's incredible. In fact, she had the best 5-shot series of the group, besting Grunso by just 1/10 of a point. As we look now at the live targets again, just cleared them off there, but wow, Tucker, an exceptional 5-shot series. Just moments ago was in 8th place. Has now moved up to 4th. Meanwhile, Grunso, Ciccarello, and Horvath remain 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, respectively.
She can claim 2nd place, but it will be interesting to see whether Grunso will give her some slack or not. Another 10.5. Very good follow-up from Tucker.
And Grunso with a 10.7. She may not let up any ground. She is terrific right now.
She would not be the one to do it. From what we've seen from her in the past, she's not the one.
In fact, I'm not sure that she shot a single 9 in this entire final so far, Grunso.
That is unbelievable. We have a few good targets here. Horvath with 10.5, 10.4, 10.3, and another 10.4. Very consistent, very consistent. Aussie seems to be struggling a little bit, has just shot a 9, which in prone can cost you a lot of decimal points, so.
Horvath doing her work to try to stay in that top 3. We'll hand out 3 individual medals, gold, silver, and bronze, to the top 3 small bore competitors. West Virginia has the team lead over TCU by 6 points. A reminder that these scores from the individual championships do not count toward the overall team scores for the tournament. West Virginia placed first in Smallbore as a team today. Wow, look at that top-line score from Stephanie Grunso, 53.0 for 3 series in a row.
That is amazing. That's just incredible. And it's interesting to see here, we have so many athletes that only shot 10s, but between Tucker and Grunso, there is a point in between, over a point in between. So that's where decimal gets tricky. You have to shoot good 10s, not just 10s.
To your point, Verena, Tucker's lowest score in that last 5-shot series was a 10-1.
Yes.
And yet Grunso still had a 1.1 point showing better than her.
Exactly, and it's just not enough. She's on a roll here.
Grunso from Denmark, a 5.92. The third best score in our relays earlier today. A 10-8 there in her first shot in this 5-shot series.
This is just unbelievable. Is she gonna shoot anything below a 10.5? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it.
It's no wonder she's a 12-time first-team All-American. Each of her previous 4 collegiate seasons, All-America honors in smallbore and air rifle and aggregate. An absolutely sensational competitor who won a bronze medal at the 2023 Rifle World Cup for Denmark and is in the top 100 of the ISSF world rankings.
Another 10.6. She's just not letting up.
And we saw Mary Tucker earlier. We were dazzled by the fact that she shot 20 standing shots, all 10s.
Yes.
And Grunso is on track to do that for this entire final. It's exceptional.
Absolutely. I'm very interested to see what she will do standing, but she might very well be going for NCAA record if her standing continues like she has been going and kneeling and prone. She might be on the way to an NCAA final record.
One last prone shot from Grunso to complete her third 5-shot series. Exceptional.
Absolutely.
She's just a hair off. She was on a 53.0 pace for 3 series in a row. She posts a 52.9 there to remain in first place.
9-minute changeover and sighting.
She has a 314.8 right now,
Ladies and gentlemen, this completes the prone
which is
portion of the
incredible.
final
We haven't even started to go into standing, so she's leading by. I mean, we see 5 points
incredible.
right now. She's leading by 5 points. It's insane.
Taking a look at the scores. In first place, Stephanie
Don't want to
Grunso.
speak too soon because there are still at least 10 shots per person to come.
Second place,
But it looks like this is a competition for second place at this point. Stephanie Grunso, a 5-point lead.
for second.
Yeah.
Brayden Heiser from Kentucky.
Okay, we're about to change over to standing. There will be a 9-minute changeover period that includes sighting time. We're going to step aside for a short break. The completion of our small bore finals at the NCAA Rifle Championships after this. Live coverage of the NCAA Rifle Championships continuing from the WVU Coliseum here in Morgantown, West Virginia. Our small bore final. It's the final changeover period before we begin shots from the standing position. Here is a look at the leaderboard, and wow, this is Stephanie Grunso's competition. The Horned Frog with a 3:14.8 through the first 30 shots of a 45-shot final competition. A 5.1 point lead over Katie Zahn, her teammate, and Braden Pizer of Kentucky. Both of those student athletes are tied in total score, 309.7. Both Sophia Ciccarello and Mary Tucker still in the vicinity of competing for a top 3 finish. Ciccarello in 4th, Tucker in 5th. Nick Farrell, Verena Zeisberger here with you as we near the conclusion of this small bore individual final. Just a quick recap of how this next series will work. 2 5-shot standing series, and then after the 10th standing shot, the two student athletes with the lowest scores will be eliminated from competition. And then through the final 5 shots, each will be an elimination shot. We'll go from 6 competitors down to 5, down to 4, and then so on as we determine our medalists in small bore. We're about 4 minutes away from the resumption of competition. So again, how important is this sighting time? You've mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier too, that it seems like the standing position is sometimes where mistakes can happen. So how much more important does that make this period for sighting?
I mean, this is really crucial, and I believe from my perspective, I would always, you want to do holding before you start standing to have a smaller hold so that you hopefully have a lower chance of taking a really, a not so great shot like an 8 or a 7. But when you have a really high pulse, like all of these guys probably have right now, like their heart rate is through the roof, they barely have time to even do holding, so their hold might not be the greatest, which means they're going to have to take some risky shots here, and it's really about who can work best with what they have, which is not much because they're not given much time to prepare for this. They got 9 minutes to change their rifle, put up their stand, get into position, doing holding, and then also sighting in. So a lot of things are asked from these athletes right now.
About 3 minutes left of sighting time. Do want to note that during our break we were able to determine that Stephanie Grunso, who is in the lead with a 3:14.8, did shoot 1-9 in her first 30 shots. She had a 9.8. Everything else has been a 10 or higher. She is absolutely dominating in this small bore final.
Absolutely incredible, and a 9.8 really might as well be a 10. It's not that far off, so she's doing an incredible job.
She's more than made up for it.
Yes,
since,
absolutely.
Right? She had multiple 3 series in a row, 53.0.
Yeah, she shot about a 10.6 average for her prone, which really, that will make up some points, absolutely.
Grunso looking to become the 5th Horned Frog to win an individual small bore title, and the first since 2019. Still got some work to do, but has a hefty cushion. So after this changeover period concludes here in about 2 minutes, as our athletes continue their sighters, 2 5-shot series standing with 250 seconds to complete each series. So I'm not so great at math. That works out to be, is it 50 seconds per shot?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow, beautiful. I can't do math.
Yes, absolutely. So this is the longest time limit we have in the whole final. It's 40 seconds for kneeling per shot, 30 seconds for prone, and then we have 50 seconds, a little bit under a minute for standing, which can be quite short. So athletes won't really have the time to reject shots or change their position a little bit or get their mind into the right space. It's a challenge.
While we have a quick moment, we want to remind you that our live coverage of the NCAA Rifle Championships will continue tomorrow when we switch gears to air rifle. 2 air rifle relays coming your way starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll also have an individual final in air gun in the afternoon to conclude our national championships. Competition begins tomorrow at approximately 9:15 a.m. for the first air rifle relay, followed by the second relay from 11:30 a.m. on, and then the championship round for individual air gun finalists will start at 2 p.m. Eastern. A little bit earlier. Air rifle moves a little bit quicker than Smallbore. Okay, 30 seconds to go. Verena, look into your crystal ball again. Ciccarello and Tucker, both exceptional shooters, well decorated on the international circuit. They're outside the top 3 right now. Can they punch their way back into this thing?
Well, I do think they can end up on the podium. Everything is open concerning second place and third place. What's going to be really tricky is taking over Grunzo, because she's just so far away. And I'll be the last one to say, you know, it can't happen. Anything can happen. But right now, that will be a task for both of them. And Stephanie just really hasn't really given up any points so far. So it's going to be difficult for both of them. But they can absolutely get into second and third place. They're very close.
Okay, there was the command from Earl Litherland, the Chief Range Officer. We are underway in our first 5-shot standing series. Top 3 as we begin the series: Grunso, Pizer, and Zahn. 2 Horned Frogs and a Kentucky Wildcat. Grunso has just shot her second 9 in 31 shots, a 9.5.
Yeah, and you can see that we have a 9.5, 9.3 on the board. We actually just have a 9.0 on there as well. So you can see that now standing really is where points can shift quite a bit, and where athletes are really going to have to do a good job at staying around the 10 ring for sure.
Braden Pizer on your screen, Kentucky's exceptional freshman, placed 3rd in Smallbore at the GARC Championships, a competition that was dominated by West Virginia, including Matt Sanchez, who won the conference individual title, and Mary Tucker, who was the runner-up. Pizer, whose season average is 584.5, has shot terrifically over the last month and a half to position himself to be a contender for an individual national title. Follows up at 9.8 with a 10.1.
Yeah, and it's very impressive. I mean, not only has he shot better and better, and then finally shot really well at NCAAs, but he made it into the final. And so far, he's doing really well. He's tied for second place, and he's staying about at a 10.0 average, which in standing is really good. So he, as a freshman, he's done very well for himself.
Here's a look at Grunso. After a 9.5, she posts an 8.7 and an 8.8 consecutively. Might help to open the door, but there's still a lot that has to happen for a lead that was 5 points to be overcome by one of our other competitors.
Yeah, this is one of the famous things we see in standing, is that people might experience some nerves, and big things like that will happen. 2 8s will definitely cut your points down, and this is the chance that the others need to take now, because she might not give them another chance after this.
Man, her groups were so tight.
Yeah.
Just a couple series ago, and now it's starting to get a little bit scattered.
It was absolutely incredible, and this is why standing is so transparent. Whatever goes on with the athlete, there's a good chance you're going to see that on the scorecard, and this is what we're seeing right here.
One more shot for this series for Grunso. This could help relieve some of the pain.
Taking our time with that last shot.
Meanwhile, her teammate Katie Zahn just shot a 10.8 to conclude her series. Grunso back-to-back 9.8s. She is still in the lead, but it has gotten tighter. She shoots a 46.6 for that series. Braden Pizer, who remains in second place, a 50.2 in that series to make up a ton of ground, but not all of it. He's still a 1.5 behind Grunso. Meanwhile, Mary Tucker on the charge late has moved into third place from fifth after posting a 50.6 in that previous series. Okay, so it's on now.
It really is. I mean, this is what I thought that could happen, but didn't think it's gonna happen. But this is exactly it. Mary is a really strong shooter, a strong standing shooter, and Grunzo had a little bit of nerves going on and gave her secure lead away, and now it's really anybody's game.
Another command from our Chief Range Officer, Earl Litherland, to load. And let's begin our second 5-shot series from the standing position. Mary Tucker advanced to the finals last year in air rifle, made it all the way to the final shot, and placed second in air gun in a gold medal shootout. Wouldn't she love an opportunity to get back to that type of moment here today in Smallbore?
Absolutely, and after this series we will have our first eliminations, so we will have to keep an eye out for place 7 and 8 to see who's going to be eliminated after this series.
Great point, Verena. And then we move into individual shots and individual eliminations for our final 5-shot series from standing. Here's Tucker at 10.5. That's moved her into second place for the moment, passing Pizer, who has back-to-back 9s at 9.5, followed by a 9.3. Grunso just a hair shy of a couple more 10s, a 9.8, followed by a 9.9. Tucker now trails Grunso on the live tally by 1 point. Stephanie Grunso of TCU built up what some might have thought was an insurmountable 5-point lead as we exited prone and entered sighters for standing. That lead has nearly evaporated.
Yeah, and this is why these small bore finals are just so exciting, because anything can happen. I mean, we've even seen people shooting on the wrong target and losing a whole shot. And there's actually a very famous American shooter who lost his gold medal at the Olympics because he shot on the wrong target at the very last shot.
My goodness.
That is why we say you never know, anything can happen. And this is what kind of happened here. Not to that extent, but we're seeing Grunzo giving away a little bit her lead.
What an incredible championship this is. It doesn't matter tall or short. It doesn't matter American or European, man or woman. This is the only sport in the NCAA where men and women compete side by side. And we're in for a great final here.
Yeah, I believe that's the beauty of our sport, that you're really not bound to your body. So gender does not matter, height does not matter, strength doesn't really matter. It's really a skill that can be trained, and it's really an amazing component of the sport.
In fact, this is a final dominated by women. It just occurred to me 7 of the 8 finalists are women, only Braden Pizer.
Yeah, this is actually something that's really funny when people ask me, I tell them, yes, I was a shooter in college, a rifle shooter, and they're quite surprised by it, because I feel like a lot of people assume that, rifle is a very male-dominated sport, which truly we're actually seeing a lot of women in the sport, and I mean, as we can see in the final, a lot of women right there.
Okay, stop command from Earl Litherland as we wrap up the second 5-shot series from the standing position. So we'll eliminate 2 competitors here. Cecilia Ossie finishes in 8th place in the final of Nebraska, and Sara Karasova of Alaska Fairbanks finishing in 7th. Karasova missing out on the top 6 by just 3 tenths of a point.
That is heartbreaking. She had a beautiful last standing series right there with 10.4 average.
Look at this, at the top of the leaderboard, dead even as we enter the elimination shots. Mary Tucker of West Virginia and Stephanie Grunso of TCU are deadlocked at 410.4, and Katie Zahn is definitely within striking distance as well, 410.2, trailing those tied athletes by just 2 tenths of a point. Anything can happen now that we've gotten in to these single elimination shots. So what happens next? 6 competitors, 5 shots to go. After this shot, we will eliminate 1 more score and continue on that progression until we have a gold medalist.
This is just crazy. This is really what I thought was not going to happen, but they're tied now, and now it's about every single shot.
Tucker has won national individual championships. Grunso has won World Cup medals. They're tied at the top of the standings now. Grunso just fired a 10.5. Zahn for TCU, who's in third, a 10.4. Tucker, a 9.6.
That is impressive. We only have 2 9s out of all of them, so they're holding up to the pressure so far.
But with Tucker's score, that's going to drop her in the standings as Grunso will move into first place and Zahn into second after that elimination shot.
Yeah, with everything being this close, we can really see that one shot can end the final for you. This is really what can happen here, so we will see.
There is a tie.
Oh, we have a tie, actually.
Ranking finalists to be eliminated.
It's between Braden Pizer and Leah Horvath. So we'll have a Wildcat and a Rebel shoot 1 tiebreaker shot. Top 5 competitors advance.
Yes, so this command was only for the 2 of them, and they are shooting 1 shot in 50 seconds, and that will decide who needs to leave.
We've got some serious drama here in Morgantown.
Absolutely. This is a great show.
The Smallbore finals have been a real treat so far. Pizer of Kentucky, Horvath of Ole Miss, whoever shoots the higher tally on this tiebreaker shot will stay in the competition.
Get to live for another shot.
Ladies and gentlemen, finishing in 6th place, thank you and congratulations.
There it is,
to
Horvath
Pizer,
edging
from
Pizer
Kentucky.
by 3/10 of a point on the tiebreaker shot. So Horvath in 5th, Pizer is eliminated in 6th place in the final. A terrific showing from the true freshman from San Angelo, Texas.
Absolutely. That's a great accomplishment.
So to reset the top 5 remaining competitors, Grunso still in the lead, Zahn 3/10 of a point behind her, and then Tucker trails Grunso by nearly a full point.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, they're separated by tenths of points, so really this one shot could decide anything. There's no way to tell who's going to go, who's going to get to stay. So this is a great final.
Grunso had a 5-point lead at one point during this final. It slipped away as Mary Tucker tied her for just a moment, and then 1 shot later, Tucker slips into 3rd, leaving Grunso alone at the top. Here's our next elimination shot. Ciccarello an 8.5.
We're seeing some things on the scoreboard. 8.5.
Grunso has just posted a 10.1. Tucker has yet to fire. There it is, a 10.8. And the Coliseum crowd.
That is amazing.
Shows its enthusiasm. Exceptionally shot by Mary Tucker.
Breaking a smile on her face as she hears the crowd.
Well, that will be the end of the tournament for Sofia Ciccarello. We'll say arrivederci to the native of Ravenna, Italy. A tremendous showing from her, finishing in 5th place.
Check your scores. In 1st place, Stephanie Grunso from TCU at 4:31.
Okay, 4 competitors left. Right now, Tucker is just 2/10 of a point behind Grunso. We'll eliminate 1 more competitor after this next shot. And at that point, we'll be left with a top 3, and we'll know who's going to make the podium. Maybe not the exact order just yet.
Absolutely, yes. the top three right now are really, they're all in reach for the win. They really are. You see Grunzo on the screen.
Crowd getting into it a little bit too.
Yes.
That's the beauty of this national championship.
The fun of the finals.
Grunso a 7.9.
Unbelievable.
Meanwhile, Zahn, her teammate from TCU, a 9.8. Horvath with a 10.1. That's a huge shot from her. Tucker has fired a 10.7.
She does not crack under pressure. There's just, you cannot say that she ever does.
So that's the end of the road for Leah Horvath of Ole Miss, just missing out on a podium finish by 1/10 of a point.
And this is what you see right there. Grunzo almost cost herself the podium with one shot that she took.
It's got to be disappointing for Horvath despite a terrific showing. She just misses the podium. She placed third in both smallbore and air rifle in 2021 as a true freshman for the Rebels. Maybe still more to come from her tomorrow in air rifle. Okay, Mary Tucker, well in front now. She was in 8th place during the kneeling portion of this sequence, and now she is in front with 2 shots to go. But as we've just seen, anything can change. You live or die on this one present shot.
Absolutely, and they know that. It's, yeah, they put everything into those 50 seconds into that one shot.
Tucker, Zahn, and Grunso, the top 3. Zahn fires a 10-3. Grunso a 9-2.
Oh.
A big number here from Tucker. 9-9. So that means Grunso is the next competitor eliminated, and Zahn is able to make up a little bit of ground on the former Olympic silver medalist for West Virginia.
What a finish. This is just heartbreaking. She led the final throughout. She really did. She shot an amazing score and has to leave third.
Just 2 touchdowns right at the end, a 7-9 and a 9-2.
In first place,
After an absolutely terrific prone phase where she just was so exceptional.
Yes, and this is why you want to be balanced throughout all of your positions. You want to be good in all 3.
Mary Tucker leads Katie Zahn by more than a point. This is the national championship shot between Tucker of West Virginia and Zahn of TCU. Tucker placed 2nd in air rifle last year. She's back to a gold medal shootout in smallbore. Zahn a 9-6. Can Tucker clinch it? She's done it. Marvelous from Mary Tucker.
Unbelievable.
An individual national champion once again.
Finishing in 2nd place. Thank you and congratulations to Katie Zahn.
It caps an absolutely exceptional day for West Virginia as a team, and for Tucker on an individual level after scoring a 5.96 to lead everyone in the smallbore relays. She clinches the smallbore individual championship with a tremendous run from the standing position.
She deserves that crowd right there. She stuck it through till the very end. It's so impressive.
Ladies and gentlemen,
wow, what a terrific final.
What a turn in events. It's been really, it's just been so exciting to see.
So Mary Tucker, a 4.62 in the championship round to place first, edging out a pair of Horned Frogs. Katie Zahn in 2nd for the silver medal, and Stephanie Grunso in 3rd. An absolutely exceptional smallbore final. 2 Horned Frogs on the podium, but Mary Tucker will take home the gold medal, back on top. She swept smallbore and air rifle in 2021, won individual titles in 2022, was surely disappointed with the outcome last year as she placed second in air rifle, but she's a national champion again.
What a beautiful way to end your career, really.
One final look at our small bore final leaderboard. Mary Tucker defeating Katie Zahn by 2.2 points. She was in 8th place after a slow start, not up to her standards. How was she able to get it corrected?
She really just has an exceptional mental game. I feel like she, under pressure, really it motivates her all the more to pitch up. She's an incredible shooter mentally and technically, and I think that's the way to go. Like, that's how you make your way back to the top. And starting in 8th and ending up winning the final is not something that many people could do. So this is really exceptional.
Tucker, our gold medalist in small bore, Zahn of TCU, the silver medalist, and Grunso of TCU, the bronze medalist. And so a quick reminder that these scores do not count toward our overall team scoring. We will name a team national champion tomorrow after a pair of air rifle relays. Our live coverage will begin around 9 a.m. tomorrow from the WVU Coliseum. West Virginia leads as a team, a 6-point lead over second place TCU. Kentucky is in 3rd after day 1. Alaska Fairbanks in 4th, followed by Air Force in 5th. We're so excited to see the conclusion of this National Rifle Championship tomorrow morning, beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, with more live coverage here from Morgantown, West Virginia, inside the WVU Coliseum. It's been a pleasure to be alongside you today. Verena Zeisberger, looking forward to tomorrow.
Absolutely, me too. Thank you for having me.
Mary Tucker, your NCAA small bore champion in 2024, capping a terrific day for the Mountaineers, the host team and #1 seed. Tomorrow, Tucker and West Virginia will try to clinch a record 20th team title. For Verena Zeisberger and all the members of our crew, I'm Nick Farrell. We hope to see you tomorrow for the air rifle relays and individual final. You've been watching the 2024 NCAA Rifle Championships.